Please, be my dad, just one day, before he kills me. A 10-year-old boy stood in the Hells Angels clubhouse doorway, left eye swollen shut, blood dripping from his split lip, hands trembling so hard his backpack straps rattled against his tiny frame. 32 bikers stopped breathing. Every man in that room saw the same thing, not a stranger's child, their own reflection. 10 years old, bruised, terrified, begging someone, anyone to care if they lived or died. What happened next would bring a town to its knees and prove that monsters don't always wear leather. Sometimes heroes do. If this story moves you, subscribe and stay until the end. Drop your city in the comments. Let me see how far Marcus's journey reaches tonight. Marcus used his whole body to push that door open. His shoulders screamed, his ribs burned. But he pushed anyway because pushing was all he had left. Leather, motor oil, decades of cigarette smoke baked into the walls, then silence. Silence so thick Marcus heard his own blood pumping. 12 men froze mid-motion. Beer bottles stopped halfway to lips. Pool cues hung over green felt. Every eye locked on the skinny kid standing in their doorway. Marcus's legs begged him to run. He stayed. The hell? A bearded giant in the corner leaned forward. You lost, kid. Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing. Hey. Different voice, deeper, quieter. The kind of quiet that made you listen harder. Over here, look at me. Marcus found him at the end of the bar, gray streaking through dark hair, a scar running from eyebrow to cheekbone, more patches on his vest than anyone else. But his eyes, those eyes saw things others missed. Those eyes were already counting Marcus's bruises. Come here. Marcus crossed the room, past the pool tables, past the staring men, past his own terror. He stopped 3 feet away. The man studied him like a doctor examining damage. Name, Marcus Turner. Age 10. That eye. Who? The question hung there. Teachers had asked before. The school nurse? Neighbors? They all accepted, I fell without blinking. I fell, Marcus whispered. Try again. Marcus flinched. No adult had ever pushed back. No adult had ever wanted truth. I can't tell you. Can't or won't. He'll hurt my mom. Something shifted behind the man's eyes. Something cold, something dangerous. Who? Carl, Mom's boyfriend. The words broke loose like water through cracked concrete. Moved in after Dad died. Nice at first. Flowers for Mom. Called me little man. Then the drinking started, and when he drinks, Marcus touched his swollen eye. The room went colder. Your dad, the man said slowly. How'd he die? Iraq, IED, 3 years ago. Marcus pulled a chain from under his shirt, purple heart metal tarnished from years of desperate clutching. He was a hero. Everyone said so. The man reached out, touched the metal gently. His thumb traced George Washington's profile. I'm Victor. They call me Ghost. He gestured to the stool beside him. Sit before you collapse. Marcus climbed up. His legs dangled like a little kid's. He felt exposed, vulnerable, absolutely certain he was either about to be saved or about to die. You didn't wander in here by accident. Victor's voice cut through the phone. Why are you really here? Deep breath, this was it, the crazy part. Career day. Victor's eyebrow rose. Career day. Next Friday, school. Everyone brings a parent to talk about their job. Marcus's voice steadied as purpose took over. All the other kids have someone. I've got nobody. Mom works doubles. Can't take off. And Carl, he laughed, bitter, too old for a 10-year-old. Carl's career is drinking beer and breaking things. Not exactly what my teacher means. So you came to the Hells Angels. I came to you. Victor leaned forward. You know what people say about us. Yes, sir. Dangerous. Criminals. Lock your doors when they ride through. Marcus met his gaze. I don't care. Why not? Because I've got a guy at home who puts cigarettes out on my arm. Marcus yanked up his sleeve. Small, round scars. Constellation of pain. I've got kids at school who throw my dad's medal in the garbage and call me orphan boy. I've got a teacher who sees my bruises and writes clumsy in my file. His voice cracked, but he pushed through. Nothing you could do is worse than what's already happening. The silence changed. This wasn't surprise anymore. This was recognition. Marcus looked around. The huge guy had frozen in the kitchen doorway, plate in hand. A man with neck tattoos had set down his beer with shaking fingers. Someone near the pool table had turned away completely, shoulders tight. These men knew this story. They'd lived it. Victor took Marcus's arm gently, turned it, examined the burns with tenderness that seemed impossible from hands that scarred. Hector. A lean man stepped forward, cross tattooed on his forearm, another hanging from his neck, face weathered but kind. Yeah, Ghost. You still got contacts at child services? Some. Start making calls, quiet ones. Victor's eyes went cold. Tell me everything about Carl Briggs. Briggs, Marcus whispered. Carl Briggs. He says he's between jobs. Been between jobs since he moved in. Drinks mom's money instead. Priors? I don't know, but he's got a parole officer. Heard him lying on the phone once. Victor and Hector exchanged a look. Something passed between them that made Marcus feel for the first time in months like solid ground existed somewhere. This career day. Victor refocused. What exactly do you want? Here it came. The insane part. The part that sounded crazy even inside his own head. I want you to come. To school. Friday. All of you. Victor said nothing. There's this kid, Trevor Whitmore. His dad's the richest man in town. Makes my life hell every single day. Marcus talked faster now. Him and his friends corner me in bathrooms. Steal my lunch. Tell everyone my dad was a coward who ran into a bomb because he didn't want to come home to me. His voice shattered. I can't make them stop. I'm too small, too weak. But you, he gestured around the room. Nobody messes with you. Nobody. If you showed up just once, maybe they'd finally leave me alone. Maybe they'd see somebody giving a damn whether I live or die. He wiped his nose with his sleeve. His whole body shook. I know it's stupid. You've got better things to do. But I didn't know where else to go. I've got no one. Mom's working herself to death, keeping the lights on. Dad's gone. Grandparents dead. Nobody. He looked up through swimming eyes. I just need someone to show up, once, just to prove I matter to somebody. The silence stretched. Tiny stood frozen in the kitchen doorway. The guy with kind eyes faced the wall, shoulders locked. The pool game had stopped completely. Victor studied Marcus for a long moment. His face gave nothing away. Then he stood. Taller than Marcus expected. When he moved, the whole room shifted with him. Friday. What time? Marcus's heart stopped. What? Career day. What time at 9:30? Room 204. But? Victor turned to face the room. Every man straightened. Every eye locked on. Who's free Friday morning? One heartbeat. Two. Then Tiny's hand went up. Then Hector's. Then the kind-eyed guy. Then neck tattoos. Then another. Every single hand. Marcus stared. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened. All of us. Victor turned back. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Looks like you just got 32 dads for a day, kid. Marcus broke. Not quiet tears. Some deep, wrenching sob that shook his whole body. He cried for his dead father, his exhausted mother, the little boy who hid in closets begging God to send someone. Victor knelt in front of him. This Hell's Angels president. This man the whole town feared. On his knees before a crying child. Hey, look at me. Marcus looked. You did something brave today. Walking in here took more guts than most grown men ever find. Victor gripped his shoulder. But understand something. Career day is just the beginning. I don't understand. Carl, Victor's eyes hardened. That situation ends. Permanently. Fear flashed across Marcus's face. If he finds out I came here, he won't, and even if he did, wouldn't matter. Victor squeezed his shoulder. By Friday, Carl Briggs will be a memory. You hearing me? Marcus didn't fully understand, but something in Victor's voice made him believe anyway. What about Mom? He'll kill her if he thinks your mom won't know anything until it's done, and by then there's nothing left to know. Victor stood. Tiny, food, now. and call Doc Martinez. I want this kid checked properly. I'm okay, Marcus tried. Black eye, split lip, cigarette burns. Swaying on that stool like you're drunk. Victor's voice left no room. You're not okay, but you will be. Tiny set a plate down. Sandwich, chips, milk, simple food. Marcus's stomach growled so loud 3 guys laughed. When'd you last eat? Tiny asked. Marcus tried remembering. Yesterday, maybe Carl took my lunch money this morning, said I'm getting too fat. Dangerous current through the room, anger so pure it was almost visible. Eat, Victor pointed at the plate. We've got work to do. Marcus ate and watched. Hector already had his phone out, voice low, scribbling in a notebook. 2 guys opened laptops. Another made call after call, each one ending the same way. Friday, 9:30, everyone. Tiny dropped onto the stool beside him. His massive frame made it look like toy furniture. Your dad served, Marcus swallowed. Yes, sir, Army, 2 tours. Marines, 3 tours myself, got out '09. Tiny's voice went flat. Came home to nothing, no family, no job, no clue how to be human again. Marcus listened. Ghost found me under an overpass in Riverside, January, freezing. Thought he was going to kill me when he pulled up on that Harley. Tiny shook his head. Just wanted to buy me breakfast. And you joined. Not right away. Ghost doesn't recruit. He just shows up, keeps showing up. Eventually you realize you've got family without ever asking for one. Tiny looked at him hard. That's what we are, kid. Family. The kind you choose when blood fails you. Marcus thought about his mother working herself to bone. His father buried somewhere overseas. Carl wearing family like a mask while being just another monster. I forgot what family's supposed to feel like, Marcus admitted. Tiny's huge hand patted his back. You're about to remember. 2 hours passed. Marcus finished eating. Doc showed up gruff and muttering about animals and what he'd do to men who hurt kids. Ice for the eye, clean bandages. Someone found him a shirt that wasn't bloodstained. The club kept mobilizing. Phone calls in Spanish, Vietnamese, languages Marcus didn't recognize. Men arriving, leaving, each one stopping to look at him, to nod, to acknowledge. Something massive was building. Something way beyond career day. Around 4, Victor emerged from the back room. His face was set in stone. Marcus, with me. They moved to a corner, away from the others. I need honest answers. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Carl owned weapons. Marcus's throat tightened. Gun, nightstand, and a knife, big one. He showed me once, said that's what he'd use if I ever told anyone about. He stopped. Victor's jaw worked. Your mother know about the abuse. I hide it. She's so tired, works so hard. If she knew, she'd blame herself. Then she'd confront him. Then Marcus's voice dropped to barely a whisper. He told me what he'd do to her if she tried leaving. Made me listen to every detail. Jesus Christ. Behind them, Blade stood with fists clenched. Ghost, we can't wait until Friday. I know. Victor stayed calm, but his eyes weren't. Hector, what did you find? Hector approached with his notebook. Carl Briggs, 41, 7 years in Corcoran. Aggravated assault plus distribution. Paroled 18 months ago. His PO is Michael Fernandez. We know Fernandez. Owes us from that thing with his kid last year. Outstanding warrants. Not yet, but he's violated parole 6 ways. Drinking prohibited. Cohabiting without notification. Missed check-ins. Hector smiled cold. 1 phone call ends him. Make it. There's more. Hector's face darkened. History ghost. Bad history. Before he went down for assault, he was married. Wife filed for divorce while he was inside. Took the kids. Vanished. Smart woman. Smarter than we knew. Talked to a buddy in the Fresno DA's office, off record. Hector paused. That assault charge plea deal. Original charge was attempted murder. His wife beat her so bad she was in a coma for 2 weeks. Silence like a tomb. Marcus felt blood drain from his face. Attempted murder. Carl had tried killing before, and now he slept in Marcus's mother's bed. Ate at her table, waited for his next chance. Mom, Marcus's voice cracked. We have to warn. No. Victor gripped his shoulders. Think. If we tell your mother now, what happens? She confronts him. And then Marcus closed his eyes, saw it clearly, his mother trying to throw Carl out, Carl's face twisting, those hands wrapping around her throat. He kills her. Right, so we don't warn her. Don't tip him off. We handle this quiet, quick, and permanent. Victor released him. Permanent means out of your lives forever. Legal, clean, no coming back. How? Victor smiled, not nice at all. Let me worry about that. You focus on eating, resting, getting ready for Friday. But, Marcus, Victor's voice softened. You came for help. You got it. Now let us work. You've carried this alone too long. Our turn. Marcus wanted to argue, demand details, guarantees. But looking into Victor's eyes, he saw something no adult had shown him in 3 years. Certainty. This man would do exactly what he said. No question, no maybe. Just bone-deep conviction that couldn't be shaken. Okay, Marcus whispered. Good. Victor checked his watch. 4:30. Get home before anyone notices. Can you? Carl passes out around 3. Won't notice. Your mom doesn't get back until 9, sometimes later. All right. Blade drives you close. Not too close. Walk the rest. Act normal. School tomorrow. Don't change anything. For how long? Victor's smile returned. Genuine this time. Until Thursday night. Then everything changes. Marcus nodded, slid off the stool, made it halfway across the room before Victor's voice stopped him. Marcus, he turned. Victor stood by the bar, arms crossed, surrounded by men who looked like nightmares but had spent 3 hours becoming salvation. You did good today. Your father would be proud. The words hit like a wave. Marcus blinked hard, refused to cry again, managed a small nod. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Victor's eyes glittered. Wait until Friday. Blade drove him in a pickup that looked nothing like what Marcus expected from a Hell's Angel. They barely talked. Blade just handed him a paper with a phone number. Ghost personal cell. Anything happens between now and Thursday, you call. Day or night. Anything. Okay. I mean it. Carl looks at you weird. You hear something strange? Bad feeling in your gut? Anything. Marcus pocketed the number. I will. Good. Blade pulled over. 2 blocks that way, straight home, homework, invisible. Marcus opened the door, paused. Can I ask something? Sure. Why you don't know me? None of you do. Why do all this for some random kid? Blade went quiet. When he spoke, his voice was rough. Had a little brother once, Marcus. Same name as you. 12 when our father beat him to death. I was 16. Too scared to stop it. His hands tightened on the wheel. Spent 20 years destroying myself because I couldn't save him. Ghost pulled me out, gave me family, purpose. Now I spend every day trying to make up for the one kid I couldn't protect by protecting every kid I can. He turned to look at Marcus directly. You're not random. You're every single one of us. Every man in that clubhouse looked at you and saw himself at 10, scared, hurt, alone, begging someone to notice. Marcus's eyes burned. Did anyone ever notice you when you were a kid? No, barely a whisper. That's why we're making damn sure someone notices you. Marcus got out, watched the truck disappear, then walked home. 2 blocks that felt like 2 miles. The house was quiet. Carl was passed out on the couch. Beer cans scattered like fallen soldiers. TV talking to nobody. Marcus crept past, made it to his room, closed the door, stood in darkness, breathing. Thursday night, Victor had said, everything changes Thursday night. He pulled out his father's purple heart, pressed it against his chest. I found them, Dad, he whispered. Real help, not pretend, not look away. Real. The metal warmed against his skin. He chose to believe it was his father reaching across the divide, telling him he'd done right. Marcus climbed into bed without changing, asleep in minutes. For the first time in 6 months, he didn't dream of Carl's fists. He dreamed of motorcycles, dozens of them, chrome gleaming in sunlight, and a voice that sounded like Victor's saying, we've got you now, son. We've got you. Thursday night, 32 Harleys, and a man named Carl Briggs about to learn what happened when you hurt the wrong kid. Marcus woke to the sound of breaking glass. His body jerked upright before his brain caught up. Survival instinct. 6 months of living with Carl had wired him this way. Awake to alert in half a second. Ready to run, ready to hide, ready to become small. He listened. Heavy footsteps in the kitchen. A chair scraping. Then Carl's voice thick with last night's booze. "Where the hell is that kid?" Marcus's blood went cold. He grabbed his backpack, shoved his feet into sneakers. No time for laces. The window. He could go through the window. He'd done it before. Drop onto the back porch, roof slide down the drain pipe, run to school the long way. His bedroom door slammed open. Carl filled the frame. Unshaven, eyes bloodshot, beer gut straining against a stained undershirt. He stared at Marcus with something new in his expression, something beyond the usual contempt. Suspicion. "Where were you yesterday?" Marcus's throat closed. "School. After school. Library, homework." Carl crossed the room in 3 steps. His hand shot out and grabbed Marcus by the collar, yanking him close. Beer breath and cigarette smoke. The smell of every nightmare Marcus had lived for 6 months. "Don't lie to me, boy." "I'm not lying. I drove past the library at 4. You weren't there." Marcus's mind raced. Think. "I left early. Walked around. I do that sometimes." Carl's eyes narrowed. "Where'd you walk?" "Nowhere. Just around." "Just around." Carl's grip tightened. "You know what I saw yesterday? Coming back from the liquor store." Marcus stopped breathing. "Saw a pickup truck dropping off a kid 2 blocks from here. Kid looked a lot like you. Truck headed back toward the industrial district." Carl's voice dropped to a growl. "Toward that biker clubhouse?" "I don't know what you're talking about." The slap came fast. Open palm, hard enough to snap Marcus's head sideways. His cheek exploded with heat. "I said don't lie to me. I'm not." Another slap. Same cheek, harder. "You went to those bikers, didn't you? Crying about your problems, playing victim." Marcus tasted blood. "No," Carl threw him. Marcus hit the wall in crumpled pain, shooting through his already bruised ribs. Before he could move, Carl was standing over him, one boot pressing down on his chest. "Listen to me carefully." Carl's voice was ice. "Those men are criminals, thugs. They don't give a damn about some sniveling kid. Whatever you told them, whatever you think they're going to do, forget it." Marcus said nothing. The boot pressed harder. Marcus couldn't breathe. "If I see any of those bikes near this house, near your mother's work, near your school, I will make you watch what I do to her. Then I'll bury you both in the desert where nobody will ever find you. You understanding me?" Marcus nodded. He couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't do anything but nod. "Good." Carl removed his boot. "Get to school. And if I hear you've been anywhere except school and home, you won't have to worry about those bikers. You'll be too dead to worry about anything." He walked out. Marcus lay on the floor for a full minute, just breathing, just existing, just trying to remember that Victor had said Thursday night. Just 2 more days. He could survive 2 more days. He had to. The walk to school took longer than usual. Marcus moved slowly, each step sending pain through his ribs. The slaps had left his cheeks swollen. Not as bad as the eye, but visible. He'd have to explain it. Another lie. Another story nobody would believe, but everyone would accept, because accepting was easier than acting. He made it to Jefferson Elementary 15 minutes before first bell. Trevor Whitmore was waiting. Of course he was. Trevor was always waiting, like he had some sixth sense for when Marcus was at his weakest, most vulnerable, most unable to fight back. Well. Trevor stepped away from the wall where he'd been leaning. Kyle and Mason flanked him, matching sneers on their faces. "Look who finally showed up, orphan boy himself." Marcus tried to walk past. Kyle blocked him. "Nice face." Trevor grabbed Marcus's chin, turning it to examine the fresh damage. "Let me guess. You fell again? Leave me alone." "Or what? You'll cry recao." Trevor shoved him backward. Mason caught him, shoved him forward again. "Human pinball. That's all you ever do. Cry and whine and act like the whole world owes you something because your daddy got himself blown up." Marcus's fists clenched. Don't talk about my dad. Why not? He's dead. He can't hear me. Trevor leaned in close. You know what I think? I think he ran into that bomb on purpose. Couldn't stand the thought of coming home to a loser like you. Something snapped. Marcus swung, his fist connected with Trevor's arm. Not hard. He was too small, too weak, too beaten down to throw a real punch. But it landed. And for one beautiful second, shock registered on Trevor's perfect face. Then Kyle grabbed Marcus from behind. Mason hit him in the stomach. Once, twice, 3 times. Marcus doubled over, all the air rushing out of him. He would have fallen if Kyle wasn't holding him upright. Trevor rubbed his jaw. His eyes had gone dark with fury. Big mistake, orphan boy. Biggest mistake of your pathetic life. He reached into Marcus's shirt and yanked out the chain. The purple heart metal glinted in the morning light. No, Marcus choked out. Trevor ripped it free. The chain broke. Marcus felt something break inside him too. Trevor held up the metal. This is what you think makes your daddy a hero. A piece of metal. My dad has a whole cabinet full of awards. Real awards. For things that actually matter. Give it back. Marcus's voice cracked. Please. That's all I have left of him. Then you don't have anything. Trevor turned and walked toward the dumpster behind the cafeteria. Kyle and Mason followed, dragging Marcus between them. No, please don't. Trevor opened the dumpster lid. The smell of rotting food wafted out. He held the purple heart over the opening, dangling it by what remained of the chain. Beg. I'm begging. Please, I'll do anything. Anything, Trevor smiled. Get on your knees. Marcus dropped, right there on the dirty asphalt, knees in the grime, eyes fixed on his father's metal. Say my dad was a coward. Marcus's whole body trembled. I can't. Say it or this goes in the trash. My dad was... The words caught in his throat. I can't say that. Please don't make me say that. Fine. Trevor dropped the metal. It disappeared into the dumpster, into the rotting lunches and milk cartons and everything else Jefferson Elementary had thrown away. Just like Marcus. Kyle let go. Marcus fell forward onto his hands, staring at the closed dumpster lid. Behind him, Trevor laughed. Have fun digging through garbage, orphan boy. That's where you belong anyway. They walked away. Marcus stayed on the ground for a long time. The bell rang. First period. He didn't move. He just stared at that dumpster, knowing what he had to do, unable to make himself do it. His father's medal was in there, in the garbage, with the rotting food and the fleece and the shame. He had to get it. He had to. Marcus climbed to his feet. His whole body screamed in protest. He walked to the dumpster like he was walking to his own execution. He lifted the lid. The smell hit him like a fist. Old pizza, spoiled milk, things he didn't want to identify. He climbed in. For 45 minutes, Marcus dug through Jefferson Elementary's garbage. His hands grew slick with things he refused to look at. The smell seeped into his clothes, his hair, his skin. Twice he gagged. Once he nearly vomited. But he kept digging, because somewhere in this filth was the only piece of his father he had left. He found it at the bottom, wedged between a moldy sandwich and a leaking juice box. His father's purple heart. The medal that had been presented to his mother with a folded flag and words about sacrifice and honor and things that meant nothing when your husband was coming home in a box. Marcus held it against his chest and cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent tears rolling down his cheeks, mixing with the garbage stains dripping onto the metal. He sat in that dumpster and cried until he had nothing left. Then he climbed out. He was late for second period by the time he reached class. Mrs. Patterson wrinkled her nose when he walked in. Marcus, you're late and you... She trailed off, taking in his appearance, the smell, the stains, the fresh bruises layered on old ones. I fell, Marcus said automatically, into a dumpster. Clumsy, Mrs. Patterson stared at him for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. Something that might have been recognition, might have been concern. Take your seat, Marcus. He sat. The other students shifted away from him, covering their noses. Someone whispered, garbage boy, and several people laughed. Marcus stared straight ahead and tried to remember that Thursday was coming. Just 2 more days. At the clubhouse, Victor hadn't slept. He'd spent the night on the phone, calling in every favor, pulling every string, building a case so airtight Carl Briggs wouldn't be able to wriggle out of it. By dawn, he had what he needed. "Run it down for me," he said to Hector, who looked equally exhausted. Hector flipped through his notebook. "Parole violations confirmed. Fernandez is ready to move whenever we give the word. Carl's missed 3 check-ins, tested positive for alcohol twice, but his PO looked the other way because he was sleeping with Carl's sister. The sister know what Carl does to that kid. Doesn't know, doesn't care. She's got her own problems. Meth, mostly." Victor nodded. "What about the domestic history?" "Confirmed. Ex-wife is living in Portland under a new name. 2 kids, both in therapy. She'll testify if it comes to that, but she's terrified. Says Carl swore he'd find her if she ever talked." "She won't have to testify. By the time this is over, Carl's going away for long enough that she won't need to worry." Tiny appeared with coffee. His usual good humor was gone, replaced by something hard and cold. "Just got off the phone with my guy at DPS. Carl's truck is registered to an address in Fresno. Same address where he was living when he put his wife in a coma. He never updated it. Never bothered, which means he's driving on expired registration, which means that's another violation." Tiny set down the coffee. "Ghost, this guy's got more violations than a condemned building. Why are we waiting until Thursday?" Victor took a slow sip. "Because I want to do this right. I want it clean. I want him gone forever, not just for a few months. And if he hurts that kid before Thursday," Victor's eyes went dark, "then we do it the other way. And nobody finds the body." The room went quiet. Victor's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Yeah." A child's voice, shaking barely above a whisper. "It's Marcus." Victor sat up straight. "What happened?" "He knows. Carl knows I went to the clubhouse. Somebody saw me getting dropped off. He was waiting when I woke up. He said," Marcus's voice broke. "He said if he sees any of you near the house or the school or anywhere, he'll kill my mom and bury us both in the desert." Victor's hand tightened on the phone. "Are you hurt?" "Just some bruises. He slapped me, threw me into a wall. But I'm okay. I'm at school now." "Where's Carl?" "I don't know. Home, I think. Getting drunk." Victor closed his eyes. 2 more days. He needed 2 more days to make this stick. But if Carl was escalating, if he was making explicit threats, then waiting became dangerous. "Marcus, listen to me carefully. Can you get to the clubhouse after school?" "I don't know. Carl might be watching." "Don't risk it. Go straight home. Act normal. Do whatever he says. Don't fight back. Don't argue. Don't give him any excuse. He's going to hurt me again." "Maybe, but if he does, you survive it. You understand me? You survive until Thursday night. Then this ends." Silence on the line. "Marcus." "Yeah, okay, I'll try." "Don't try. Do it. Thursday night, I'm coming for you, all of us. And when we do, Carl Briggs will never touch you or your mother again. That's not a promise. That's a fact." "Okay." Marcus's voice was steadier now. "Okay, I can do 2 more days." "Yes, you can. You're the bravest kid I've ever met. Your father would be proud as hell." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true. Now get through today. Stay invisible. Stay alive. Thursday night, Marcus. Hold on until Thursday night." The line went dead. Victor stared at the phone. His jaw was clenched so tight his teeth ached. "Change of plans," he said quietly. Every man in the room leaned in. "We're not waiting until Thursday night. We're moving tomorrow. Wednesday evening, when Sarah's at work and Carl's alone with the kid." Hector nodded. "I'll call Fernandez. Get the wheels turning." "No, we don't wait for Fernandez. We handle this ourselves first. Fernandez shows up after." Tiny cracked his knuckles. "Now you're talking." "No violence," Victor said firmly. "Not unless he forces it. We do this smart. We do this legal. But we do it tomorrow." The word spread through the club like wildfire. By noon, every member knew the plan. By evening, assignments had been made. By midnight, 32 men were ready to move. But Marcus didn't know any of this. He went home after school, walked through the door like he was walking into a cage. Carl was on the couch exactly where Marcus expected him. Beer in hand, eyes tracking Marcus's every move. "Straight home," Carl observed. "Good boy." Marcus said nothing. He went to his room. did his homework, stayed invisible, stayed alive. That night, Carl didn't hit him, didn't even yell, just watched. Every time Marcus came out for water or food, Carl's eyes followed him, waiting, testing, looking for any excuse. Marcus gave him none. Wednesday morning came gray and cold. Marcus dressed in the dark. His ribs had turned purple overnight. His cheek was swollen, but not as bad as yesterday. He could get through school. He could get through one more day. He had to. The walk to school felt different, like the whole world was holding its breath, like something was building just beneath the surface, waiting to explode. Trevor was waiting again. But today something was different. Today Marcus didn't try to avoid him. He walked straight toward Trevor, and his crew head up, eyes forward. Trevor blinked. "What's this garbage boy grew a spine overnight?" "My dad wasn't a coward." The words came out steady, strong, not a shred of the fear Marcus felt. Trevor's smile flickered. "What? You made me say it yesterday when you threw his medal in the trash." Marcus's voice carried now. Other students were stopping to watch. "You made me get on my knees and almost say my dad was a coward." But he wasn't. He saved 3 men in that convoy, threw himself on the IED so they could get clear. They gave him that medal because he died protecting people he loved. Trevor's face reddened. "Nobody cares about your dead daddy." "I care." Marcus stepped closer. "And I found something out yesterday. When you're digging through garbage looking for the only thing you have left of someone you love, you figure some things out. You figure out what matters and what doesn't." "Yeah, what did you figure out?" "That you're sad." Marcus held Trevor's gaze. "Not scary, sad. You've got all that money and all those friends, and you still spend your time making some kid's life miserable. That's not strong. That's pathetic." Trevor's fist came up. Marcus didn't flinch. "Go ahead, hit me. Add another bruise to the collection. It won't change anything. It won't make your life better. It won't make my dad any less of a hero." Marcus spread his arms. "So do it, or walk away. I really don't care anymore." Silence. Everyone watching. Trevor's fist hanging in the air. Kyle shifted uncomfortably. Dude just hit him. But Trevor didn't. Something had changed in his eyes, something that looked almost like recognition, like he was seeing Marcus for the first time. He lowered his fist. "You're not worth it." The words came out hollow, empty, nothing like his usual venom. He turned and walked away. Kyle and Mason followed confused. Marcus stood alone in the middle of the courtyard surrounded by watching students. He was shaking, every cell in his body trembling with leftover adrenaline. But he'd done it. He'd stood up. He'd looked his bully in the eye and refused to break. Maybe Victor was right. Maybe there was some of his father's courage in him after all. The school day passed in a blur. Marcus couldn't focus on anything except the clock. Every hour was an hour closer to Thursday, closer to whatever Victor had planned, closer to the end of Carl. By 3 o'clock, Marcus was practically vibrating with tension. He gathered his things, walked out the front door, and started home. He made it half a block before the truck pulled up beside him. Carl's truck. "Get in." Marcus's stomach dropped. "I was just going home." "I said get in." No choice. Fighting meant worse later. Marcus climbed into the passenger seat. Carl didn't say anything, just drove, but not toward home. "Where are we going?" Silence. "Carl, where are we going?" "You'll see." They drove out of town, past the suburbs, past the strip malls and fast food places, into the industrial district, warehouses, abandoned factories. Empty lots where weeds grew through cracked concrete. Carl pulled into an empty parking lot and stopped the truck. Marcus's heart was hammering. This was it. Carl was going to kill him. Right here, right now, in some forgotten lot where nobody would ever find the body. "Get out." Marcus couldn't move. His legs wouldn't work. "I said get out." Carl's hand shot across the cab, grabbed Marcus by the collar, and dragged him out through the driver's side door. Marcus hit the pavement, hard pain exploding through his already damaged ribs. Carl stood over him. "I've been patient with you, boy, more patient than you deserve. But you crossed a line going to those bikers. You don't get to do that. You don't get to bring outsiders into family business. You're not my family. The kick caught Marcus in the stomach. He curled into a ball, gasping for air. Your mama thinks I am, and that's what matters. I've got a good thing going. Nice house. Woman who works herself to death, keeping me comfortable. Free ride. And I'm not letting some snot-nosed brat ruin that. Another kick. This one to the back. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to forget about those bikers. You're going to go to school tomorrow, smile and wave, pretend everything's perfect. Then you're going to come home and be a good little boy until I decide you've earned back my trust, which might be never. Carl crouched down, grabbing Marcus's hair and yanking his head back. And if you ever go near that clubhouse again, I will do exactly what I promised. Your mama first, then you, then I disappear. Nobody finds bodies in the desert, kid. Nobody even looks. He released Marcus's hair and stood. Now get up. We're going home. And you're going to walk through that door with a smile on your face. Your mama gets home at 9. She sees you happy and healthy. Got it. Marcus couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Got it? Yes. Good. Carl dragged him to his feet and shoved him toward the truck. The drive home was silent. Marcus stared out the window, counting breaths, trying to manage the pain. His ribs were definitely cracked now. Maybe broken. Every breath was fire. But he was alive. And tonight was Wednesday. Victor had said Thursday. But Marcus didn't know if he could survive another night. Didn't know if there would be anything left to save by the time Thursday came. They pulled into the driveway at 5:30. Carl cut the engine and turned to Marcus. Remember, happy and healthy. One wrong word to your mama and we take another drive. This time you don't come back. Marcus nodded. They went inside. For 3.5 hours, Marcus performed the role of his life. He did homework at the kitchen table while Carl watched TV. He made himself a sandwich and ate it without wincing. He smiled when his mother came through the door at 9, told her school was fine, told her everything was great. Sarah looked tired, so tired, but she smiled back at her son, ruffled his hair, said she was proud of him. Marcus went to bed at 10. He waited until midnight, until Carl's snoring rattled through the thin walls, until he was sure everyone was asleep. Then he pulled out Victor's number. His hands shook so badly he misdialed twice, but he got it right on the third try. It rang once. Victor answered. Marcus, I can't wait until Thursday. The words came out in a rush. He took me somewhere today. An empty lot. Beat me worse than ever. My ribs are cracked, maybe broken. I can barely breathe. He said if I go near you again, he'll kill us both. He described it, how he'd do it, where he'd bury us. I can't do this anymore. I can't. I thought I was strong, but I'm not. I'm just a kid and he's going to kill me. And Marcus, Victor's voice cut through the panic. Calm, steady, absolute. What's your address? Marcus gave it. We're coming right now, 20 minutes. Can you hold on for 20 minutes? I don't know. He's asleep. If he wakes up, he won't touch you. Do you hear me? He will never touch you again. 20 minutes. Stay in your room. Lock the door if you can. We're coming. What about my mom? She's sleeping. If she wakes up and sees, we'll handle it. We'll handle everything. You just stay alive for 20 more minutes. Okay. Marcus was crying now, couldn't stop. Okay, please hurry. We're already moving. The line went dead. Marcus stared at his phone. 20 minutes. Just 20 more minutes. He could survive 20 minutes. He had to. 12 minutes later, he heard the motorcycles. Distant at first, like thunder rolling in from far away, but growing louder, growing closer, until the windows shook and the walls vibrated and the sound was everywhere, filling the world. Carl stopped snoring. Marcus heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, fast. His bedroom door slammed open. Carl stood there, wild-eyed, chest heaving. What did you do? Before Marcus could answer, the front door exploded. Not literally, but that's what it sounded like. Someone hitting it so hard the frame cracked. Then voices. Deep voices. Angry voices. Carl Briggs, open this door or we're coming through it. Carl's face went white. He looked at Marcus, at the phone still clutched in his hand. at the one he'd beaten and threatened and terrorized for 6 months. You little... The door gave way. Victor came through first. Behind him, filling the doorway and spilling into the house, came more men than Marcus could count. Leather vests, tattoos, faces carved from stone. Carl backed up. His hand went toward the nightstand, toward the gun. Tiny was faster. The big man crossed the room in 3 steps and caught Carl's wrist before he could reach the weapon. One twist. Carl screamed. Tiny shoved him to his knees. Gun's not an option tonight, Tiny said calmly. Victor walked past them, walked straight to Marcus, knelt beside the bed where Marcus sat, frozen tears streaming down his face. Hey, Victor's voice was gentle, so different from the fury in his eyes. We're here. It's over. You're safe. Marcus couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He just stared at Victor, at the man who had actually come, who had actually showed up when he called, who had actually kept his promise. Mom, Marcus finally choked out. My mom's in the bedroom. She doesn't know. Sarah Turner. Victor turned. A woman stood in the hallway, small, exhausted, eyes wide with fear and confusion, darting between the bikers, her son, and the man on his knees being held by a giant. What is happening? What are you doing in my house, Marcus? Baby, are you okay? Mom. But Victor was already moving toward her, his hands up, palms out, non-threatening. Mrs. Turner, my name is Victor Reyes. Your son came to us 3 days ago with a black eye and cigarette burns, asking if someone could be his father for one day. Sarah's face crumpled. What? He asked because the man on his knees over there has been beating him for 6 months while you work double shifts. Tonight that man took your son to an abandoned lot and cracked his ribs, threatened to kill you both and bury you in the desert. Sarah's eyes went to Marcus, to the way he held his side, to the bruises he'd been hiding for months. Baby, is that true? Marcus nodded, tears rolling. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't want to worry you. You work so hard. I thought if I just stayed quiet, stayed invisible, he'd leave you alone. But he just kept getting worse, and I didn't know what to do, so I went to find someone who could help, and... Sarah crossed the room and wrapped her arms around her son. She held him so tight Marcus whimpered from the rib pain, but he didn't pull away. He buried his face in her shoulder and sobbed. I'm sorry, he kept saying. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. Sarah's voice was fierce, maternal, the voice of a woman who had just discovered her child had been suffering in silence to protect her. Nothing, do you hear me? Nothing. Victor gave them a moment. Then he turned to Carl, still on his knees, Tiny's hand clamped on his shoulder. Carl Briggs. Victor's voice was ice. Attempted murder, parole violation, child abuse, terroristic threats. You've got about 15 minutes before your parole officer arrives with the police. When they get here, you're going away for a very, very long time. Carl's face was gray. All the bravado, all the threats, all the violence gone. What remained was a small, pathetic man who had only ever been brave when beating children. I want you to know something. Victor crouched to Carl's level. If it were up to me, you wouldn't make it to prison. But that kid over there, the one you've been torturing, he asked me to do this the right way, legal, clean, no violence unless you force it. Victor's smile was cold. So thank him, because he's the only reason you are still breathing. Sirens in the distance, growing closer. Victor stood. Get him outside. I don't want him in this house when the police arrive. Tiny hauled Carl to his feet and dragged him toward the door. Carl didn't resist, didn't fight. He was a broken thing now, hollowed out by the reality of consequences, finally catching up. Sarah held Marcus tighter. I don't understand. Who are you people? Why would you help us? Victor looked at her, at this exhausted woman who had worked herself to the bone, trying to keep her family afloat after losing her husband. At her son who had walked into a den of monsters looking for angels. Because someone needed to, he said simply, and because your boy was brave enough to ask. The sirens were close now, blue and red lights flickering through the windows. Thursday, Marcus whispered against his mother's shoulder. You said Thursday. Victor smiled, genuine this time, warm. I lied. When someone you care about is hurting you, don't wait for the convenient time. You move when they need you. He put a hand on Marcus's head, Tomorrow's still happening, by the way. Career day, 9:30, room 204. 32 men who want to be your dad for a day. Marcus looked up, through the tears, through the pain, through everything. Really. Victor's voice was soft. We protect our own Marcus. And as of tonight, you're one of us. The police came through the door. The paramedics followed. The next 2 hours were a blur of statements and examinations, and Sarah crying and Marcus being told over and over that he was safe now that it was over, that the bad man could never hurt him again. But through all of it, the bikers stayed. They stood guard outside the house. They gave statements to the police. They waited until Carl was loaded into a squad car, until the ambulance had checked Marcus's ribs, until a social worker had come and gone with assurances that no one was being removed from anyone. When the chaos finally settled, Victor was the last to leave. He stood on the porch looking at Marcus through the screen door. Get some sleep, kid. You've got a big day tomorrow. Marcus's voice was raw. Thank you for coming, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Victor's eyes twinkled. Wait until you see 32 Harleys roll into your school parking lot. Then you can thank me. He walked down the steps toward his waiting motorcycle. Marcus watched him go. Victor, the biker turned. That thing you said about being one of you. Marcus swallowed hard. Did you mean it? Victor smiled. The kind of smile that changed a person's face entirely, that made him look less like a hell's angel and more like something else, something protective, something permanent. Every word. He mounted his bike, kicked the engine to life. The rumble shook the windows. See you at 9:30, son. Then he was gone, taillights disappearing into the darkness, the sound of 32 motorcycles fading into the night. Marcus stood at the door for a long time. His mother came up behind him, wrapped her arms around his shoulders, and they watched together as the last echoes died away. Career day tomorrow, Sarah said quietly. You want to tell me about it? Marcus leaned back into her embrace. Safe. For the first time in 6 months, actually safe. Yeah, Mom, I'll tell you everything. The night wrapped around them. Stars overhead, cool air through the screen, and somewhere in the distance, the rumble of motorcycles keeping watch until dawn. Marcus woke to sunlight streaming through his window and the smell of bacon. He lay still for a moment, confused. His brain was searching for the danger, listening for Carl's footsteps, waiting for the familiar knot of terror that had lived in his chest for 6 months. Nothing, just sunlight and bacon, and his mother's voice humming something soft in the kitchen. Marcus sat up slowly. His ribs screamed in protest, still taped from last night's paramedic visit. But beneath the pain was something else, something he barely recognized. Safety. He patted down the hallway, still in his pajamas, and stopped in the kitchen doorway. Sarah stood at the stove, actually stood there cooking instead of rushing out the door before dawn. She turned when she heard him, and her face lit up with something that looked like relief and guilt and love all tangled together. Morning, baby. Hungry. Marcus couldn't remember the last time she'd asked him that. Couldn't remember the last time she'd been home in the morning at all. You didn't go to work. Called in sick. Sarah slid eggs onto a plate beside the bacon. First sick day I've taken in 2 years. Figured today was worth it. Marcus sat at the table. The same table where he'd eaten silent meals while Carl watched. The same table where he'd learned to make himself invisible. But it felt different now. Lighter, like the air itself had changed. Sarah set the plate in front of him. Then she sat across from him, coffee in hand, and just looked at her son. I owe you an apology. Mom, you don't. Yes, I do. Her voice was firm. I was so focused on keeping the lights on, keeping food on the table, keeping us from drowning after your father died, that I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. My own son was being hurt, and I didn't see it. Marcus pushed his eggs around the plate. I didn't want you to see it. I hid it. You shouldn't have had to. Sarah reached across and took his hand. You're 10 years old, Marcus. You shouldn't have to protect your mother. That's supposed to be my job. You were tired. That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse, it's just true. Marcus looked up at her. You work so hard. You do everything for us. I didn't want to make it harder. Sarah's eyes filled. Baby, nothing is harder than finding out my son was suffering alone because he thought he had to protect me. That's not, she stopped, swallowed. That's not what family is supposed to be. I know. Marcus squeezed her hand. Victor told me that when I asked for help. He said protecting you by taking hits isn't noble. It's just more pain. Victor, Sarah shook her head slowly. I still can't believe you walked into a Hells Angels clubhouse and asked them to be your father for a day. I was desperate. You were brave. Sarah pulled his hand to her lips and kissed it. Your father would be so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, not pain, something warmer, something that had been frozen for 3 years since the military chaplain knocked on their door with news that changed everything. I miss him, Mom. I know, baby. I miss him too. Do you think he's watching wherever he is? Sarah smiled through her tears. I think Daniel Turner is up there right now telling everyone who'll listen that his son walked into a den of bikers and asked for help. And I think he's proud as hell. Marcus smiled back, his first real smile in months. Eat your breakfast, Sarah said, wiping her eyes. You've got a big day ahead. Career day right 9:30. Yeah, Marcus took a bite of bacon. It tasted better than any food he'd eaten in 6 months. Room 204. And 32 Hells Angels are coming. That's what Victor said. Sarah laughed. It was a strange sound in this house, a beautiful sound. The other parents are going to have heart attacks. That's kind of the point. They ate together, actually talked for the first time in longer than Marcus could remember. About school, about his dad, about what might come next now that Carl was gone and the weight of fear had lifted. By 8:30, Marcus was dressed in his best clothes. The same button-up shirt he'd worn to his father's funeral, now almost too small. His mother had ironed it that morning, had polished his shoes, had fussed over his hair until he squirmed away laughing. You look handsome, Sarah said, straightening his collar for the 100th time. I look ridiculous. You look like your father. Her voice caught. He wore that same expression on our wedding day, trying to act annoyed while secretly loving every second. Marcus felt his cheeks flush. Mom. What? It's true. She stepped back, looking at him with eyes that saw past the bruises, past the healing, straight through to the boy he was becoming. Whatever happens today, whatever those bikers do or don't do, you need to know something. What? You already won. Sarah cupped his face in her hands. You stood up. You asked for help. You fought back. That's more than most adults ever manage. No matter what happens at career day, you've already proven you're braver than anyone in that school. Marcus hugged her, held on tight, let himself be held. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby, more than anything in this world. The walk to school felt different. Marcus moved slowly, his ribs still protesting every step. But his head was high, his shoulders were straight. He walked like someone who had survived something terrible and come out the other side. Jefferson Elementary loomed ahead, the same building where he'd been tormented for months, where Trevor Whitmore ruled the halls, where teachers looked away and students laughed, and Marcus learned what it felt like to be invisible. Not today. Today, everything would be different. He pushed through the front doors and headed straight for room 204. The hallways were already buzzing with activity, parents in suits, parents in scrubs, parents carrying briefcases and stethoscopes and laptops ready to show off their impressive careers to a room full of 10-year-olds. Marcus saw Trevor Whitmore's father before he saw Trevor. Richard Whitmore stood near the gymnasium entrance, shaking hands like he was running for office. Tall, silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than Sarah's monthly salary. He laughed at something another parent said, the practiced laugh of a man who knew exactly how much his opinion mattered. Trevor stood beside him, soaking up the reflected glory. Then Trevor saw Marcus. His face twisted into that familiar sneer. He said something to his father, got a distracted nod, and walked toward Marcus with Kyle and Malpanon falling into formation behind him. Well, Trevor stopped 3 feet away. Garbage boy actually showed up. Thought maybe you'd skip today, considering you don't have anyone coming. Marcus said nothing. What's wrong, cat got your tongue? Trevor stepped closer. Or maybe you're just embarrassed. Everyone else has real parents with real jobs. What have you got? A A dead dad and a mom who's too busy cleaning hotel toilets to show up. She's a waitress, actually. Same thing, servant jobs for servant people. Trevor's smile widened. Face it, orphan boy, nobody's coming for you. Nobody cares whether you live or... They're coming. Trevor blinked. What? Someone's coming for me. Marcus met his gaze steadily. 32 someone's, actually. Kyle snorted. Right, and I'm the president. You'll see. Something in Marcus's voice made Trevor hesitate. That certainty, that complete absence of fear. It didn't match the broken kid who dug through dumpsters yesterday looking for his father's medal. Whatever. Trevor turned away, dismissing him. Come on, let's go watch my dad crush everyone else's presentation. They walked away. Marcus watched them go heart-pounding, but face calm. The clock on the wall read 9:15. 15 more minutes. He walked into room 204 and found a seat in the back row. The classroom was already filling up. Parents lined the walls. Kids sat at their desks, excited, nervous, proud. Everyone had someone, except Marcus. Mrs. Patterson stood at the front of the room, clipboard in hand, checking off names. She glanced at Marcus, saw the empty chair beside him, and something flickered across her face. Concern, maybe. Or pity. She marked something on her clipboard and looked away. The clock ticked. 9:20. Parents were still arriving. A woman in a doctor's coat. A man in a pilot's uniform. Someone with a badge from a local TV station. Everyone important, everyone successful, everyone exactly what career day was supposed to be about. 9:25, the last parents trickled in. Mrs. Patterson closed the door. The room settled into expectant quiet. All right, class, welcome to career day. We have a wonderful lineup of parents ready to share their careers with us. First up, Marcus stopped listening. His eyes were fixed on the clock. 9:26, 9:27. Victor had said 9:30. Victor had promised, but promises meant nothing. Marcus knew that. Adults promised all the time. Adults broke promises like they were made of glass. 9:28. Maybe they weren't coming. Maybe it had all been talk. Maybe Victor had forgotten, or gotten busy, or decided that one messed up kid wasn't worth the trouble. 9:29. Marcus's chest tightened. Stupid. He'd been stupid to hope, stupid to believe, stupid to think anyone would actually... Then he heard it, distant at first, like thunder rolling in from miles away, but growing, building, a rumble that vibrated through the walls and rattled the windows and made every person in room 204 stop what they were doing and look up. Mrs. Patterson's voice faltered mid-sentence. What on earth? The rumble grew louder, closer, deep and powerful and impossible to ignore. Students left their seats. Parents moved toward the windows. Someone gasped. Marcus didn't move. He just smiled. They came. 32 motorcycles rolled into Jefferson Elementary's parking lot in perfect V formation. Chrome gleaming, engines roaring, leather vests and sunglasses, and every stereotype of danger the community had ever whispered about. At the front of the formation, Victor Reyes led the way. The school erupted. Students poured into the hallways. Teachers abandoned classrooms. Parents pressed against windows, mouths hanging open. The principal's voice came over the intercom, high and panicked. Everyone, please remain calm. We are assessing the situation. Please remain. Nobody remained anything. The hallways became rivers of curious bodies flowing toward the front entrance, toward the impossible sight of Hell's Angels parked outside Jefferson Elementary School. Marcus stood slowly. His ribs protested. He didn't care. He walked out of room 204, past the staring students, past the gaping teachers, past Trevor Whitmore, whose face had gone the color of old milk. He pushed through the front doors and walked toward the motorcycles. Victor was already off his bike. So were the others. 32 men in leather vests stood in the morning sunlight, looking exactly like what they were, dangerous, intimidating, and absolutely completely there. Victor saw Marcus coming. His weathered face broke into a smile. He opened his arms. Marcus ran, not fast. His ribs wouldn't let him run fast. But he ran anyway, pain be damned, straight into Victor's chest. The older man caught him and wrapped those scarred arms around him like a shield against everything bad in the world. Told you we'd come. Victor's voice was gruff with emotion. I know. Marcus's words were muffled against leather. But I thought maybe, never, you hear me, never. Victor pulled back on hands on Marcus's shoulders, looking him in the eye. When we make a promise, we keep it. That's what family does. Around them, the school continued to panic. The principal had emerged from the building flanked by two security guards who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else on the planet. Teachers tried to herd students back inside. Parents clutched phones, some calling 911, some filming, some doing both. But in the center of the chaos, Marcus stood surrounded by 32 men who had shown up, who had actually really shown up. Victor turned to face the principal. Dr. Rebecca Chen was a small woman with fierce eyes and a reputation for running the tightest ship in the district. She was also clearly terrified. "Can I help you?" Her voice came out steady, but her hands were shaking. "Yes, ma'am." Victor stepped forward, and despite everything, he was polite. "We're here for Career Day." Dr. Chen blinked. "I'm sorry? Career Day, room 204, 9:30? Victor gestured to his brothers. "We're Marcus Turner's family. We're here to talk about our jobs." The silence that followed was absolute. Every student, every teacher, every parent, every person within earshot stopped and stared at the Hells Angels president, claiming a beaten-up 10-year-old as family. Chen recovered first. "Mr. Reyes, Victor Reyes. Mr. Reyes, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is highly irregular. Hells Angels at an elementary school. Career Day is not exactly... We're not here to cause trouble, Mom." Victor's voice was calm but firm. "We're here because a kid asked us to be. A kid who's been bullied every day in these halls. A kid whose father died serving this country. A kid who walked into our clubhouse with a black eye and asked if someone could be his dad for one day." He paused, let the words sink in. "We said yes, all 32 of us. So here we are." Dr. Chen looked at Marcus, at the healing bruises, at the way he stood close to Victor as if proximity meant protection. "Is this true, Marcus?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, ma'am, they're my family." Something shifted in Dr. Chen's expression. The fear faded. Something else took its place. Something that looked almost like respect. "Well," she took a deep breath, "I suppose Career Day is about learning what people do for a living. And I imagine your family has some interesting perspectives to share." Victor smiled. "You have no idea." They entered the school in formation. 32 Hells Angels walking down the hallways of Jefferson Elementary students, parting before them like water before ships. Marcus walked at the front beside Victor, his head high and his spine straight. They passed Trevor Whitmore. Trevor stood frozen against the lockers, Kyle and Mason flanking him. His face had gone from white to green. He looked like he might throw up. Victor noticed. He stopped walking. "You Trevor?" Trevor couldn't speak. He just nodded, eyes wide. Victor studied him for a long moment. Then he leaned in close. "We'll talk later." He kept walking. Trevor stayed frozen. Room 204 was packed when they arrived. Word had spread. Every seat was taken. Students and parents lined the walls. Dr. Chen had positioned herself near the front, arms crossed, watching carefully. Mrs. Patterson stood at her desk, looking like she'd seen a ghost. Several ghosts, an entire army of ghosts in leather vests. "Mrs. Patterson?" Victor nodded politely. "Sorry we're late. Traffic." Someone in the back of the room laughed nervously. "Please." Mrs. Patterson gestured weakly to the front of the room. "Present your career." Victor walked to the front. The other bikers arranged themselves along the walls, standing shoulder to shoulder, a barrier of leather and ink and pure intimidation. "Good morning." Victor's voice filled the room. "My name is Victor Reyes. I served in the United States Army for 12 years. Did 3 tours overseas. Came home with some medals and a lot of memories I'd rather forget." He paused. The room was absolutely silent. "After I got out, I didn't know what to do with myself. A lot of veterans don't. We spend years training to be warriors. Then we come home and nobody knows what to do with us. We fall through the cracks. Some of us end up homeless. Some of us end up dead." Victor's eyes found Marcus. "I was headed that way myself when I found a new family, a brotherhood. Men who'd been through their own wars, their own battles, their own darkness. Together we built something different." He gestured to the men lining the walls. "These are my brothers. Tiny over there, Yeah, we call him Tiny, served in the Marines. 3 tours. Hector beside him was a chaplain before he found us. Blade in the corner works with at-risk youth, helping kids who are going down the wrong path find a better one. Richard Whitmore shifted uncomfortably near the window. His eyes kept darting to the exits. We run a motorcycle shop. We do security work. Some of us drive trucks. Some of us fix things. Legal jobs. Real jobs. The kind of jobs that pay taxes and follow laws and contribute to community. Victor paused again. His voice dropped lower. But that's not really what we do. What we really do is show up. When someone needs us, we show up. When a kid walks into our clubhouse with cigarette burns on his arms and asks for help, we show up. When that same kid calls at midnight saying he can't survive another night, we show up. Every eye in the room moved to Marcus. Marcus looked down at his hands. His father's purple heart medal hung around his neck, the chain Victor had somehow gotten repaired overnight. Career Day is supposed to be about impressing kids with fancy job titles, making them want to grow up to be doctors and lawyers and executives. Victor's voice hardened. But let me tell you something. The most important job in the world isn't listed on any resume. The most important job is showing up for the people who need you, being there when it counts, standing between someone weak and someone strong. He looked at Richard Whitmore, held the gaze until Richard looked away. That's what we do. That's who we are. And that's why we're here today. Silence, then Tiny stepped forward. Name's Timothy Walsh. Everyone calls me Tiny because I'm not. A few nervous laughs. I aged out of foster care when I was 18. No family, no money, no hope. Slept under an overpass for 3 years. Ghost Victor found me one night and bought me breakfast. Changed my life. Now I drive long-haul trucks across the country. Legal, good money. But more important now, I've got brothers who've got my back. Forever. He stepped back. Hector stepped forward. Hector Mendez, former chaplain, current motorcycle mechanic. I've buried more soldiers than I can count. Watched too many good men fall through the cracks when they came home. Joined this club because they don't let anyone fall. Not their brothers, not strangers, not kids who walk in off the street looking for hope. One by one they spoke. Blade talked about his youth program, about kids who'd been headed for gangs or graves now learning trades, building futures, breaking cycles. Doc talked about providing medical care to people who couldn't afford hospitals, about stitching wounds and setting bones and saving lives outside the system that had failed so many. Others talked about construction work, about welding, about security jobs protecting businesses from real criminals not becoming criminals themselves. By the time the last man finished speaking, the room had transformed. The fear was gone. In its place was something else. Curiosity, interest, even respect. These weren't the monsters everyone had whispered about. These were men who'd found their own way through darkness into light. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Thank you, gentlemen. That was illuminating. Does anyone have questions? A forest of small hands shot up. Are your motorcycles really loud? Yes. Have you ever fought anyone? Only when we had to. Do you have to be scary to join? Victor smiled. No, you just have to care about people who need help. The questions continued for 20 minutes. Serious ones, silly ones, everything in between. The bikers answered them all patiently, carefully, honestly. Then Richard Whitmore spoke. This is all very touching. His voice dripped contempt. But let's be honest about what's really happening here. You're a gang. You have a reputation. Parents in this room are right to be concerned about their children being exposed to Mr. Whitmore. Victor's voice cut through like a blade. I know who you are. Richard stiffened. Excuse me. Richard Whitmore, real estate development, a construction, some shipping interests on the side. Victor's eyes never left Richard's face. We've done security work for some of your business partners. Interesting people, some of them. The color drained from Richard's face. I also know your son, Trevor, has been bullying Marcus Turner for months, calling him names, throwing his dead father's medals in the trash, making his life miserable every single day. Every eye in the room swung to Trevor. Trevor looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Now, I'm not here to cause problems. Victor's voice stayed level. But I want to make something very clear. If anyone in this school, student, teacher, parent, anyone touches Marcus Turner again, we will know. And we will respond. He looked around the room. Not with violence. We're not about that. But with visibility, with attention, with the kind of scrutiny that people like Mr. Whitmore here would prefer to avoid. Richard's hands were shaking. Questions are done. Dr. Chen stepped in, sensing danger. I think we should move on to the next presentation. Mr. Reyes, thank you for your unique contribution to Career Day. Victor nodded. Our pleasure. He walked to Marcus, who sat in the back row, tears streaming down his face. Hey. Victor crouched beside him. You okay? Yeah. Marcus wiped his eyes. I can't believe you actually did it. All of you, you actually came. What did I tell you? We protect our own. Victor pulled something from his vest, a small patch embroidered with wings and flames. This is for you, honorary brother. Means your family, forever. Marcus took the patch with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just know that from now on, you've got 32 brothers who'll show up whenever you need them. No questions, no hesitation, no matter what. He stood and ruffled Marcus's hair. Now go enjoy the rest of Career Day. We'll be outside if you need us. The bikers filed out. One by one, they passed Marcus's desk. Each one nodded. Each one smiled. Tiny ruffled his hair like Victor had. Blade gave him a fist bump. Hector touched his shoulder gently. 32 men who had shown up. 32 men who had kept their promise. When the room was empty of leather vest, Mrs. Patterson approached Marcus. Marcus, her voice was different now, soft, almost ashamed. I owe you an apology. He looked up at her. I've seen your bruises all year. I wrote clumsy in my reports because that was easier than asking questions. I let you down. Her eyes were wet. I'm sorry. Marcus didn't know how to respond. An adult apologizing, taking responsibility, admitting failure. It was so foreign he didn't have words for it. It's okay, he finally said. No, it's not, but I'm going to do better, starting now. She straightened. If anyone in this school gives you trouble, you come to me, directly. I'll handle it personally. Do you understand, Maya? Yes, ma'am. She nodded once and walked back to the front of the room to continue Career Day. But Marcus wasn't listening. His eyes were on Trevor Whitmore, who sat 3 rows ahead, shoulders hunched, face pale, looking for all the world like a completely different person than the bully who had tormented Marcus for months. Something was wrong with Trevor. Something beyond fear of the bikers. Something deeper. Something that Marcus recognized because he'd felt it himself. The look of someone being hurt with no one to help. The realization hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. Trevor was scared. Not of Victor or the Hells Angels. Scared the way Marcus had been scared of Carl. Scared the way kids got when the danger came from inside their own home. Marcus watched Richard Whitmore slip out the door, phone pressed to his ear, face twisted with barely contained rage. And Trevor watched his father go with eyes full of something Marcus knew too well. Terror. Career Day continued. Other parents presented. Other jobs discussed. Marcus sat through all of it, but his mind was elsewhere. Watching Trevor. Watching the way the bully's hands trembled. The way he flinched when anyone spoke too loud. The way he seemed to shrink smaller and smaller as the morning wore on. Hurt people hurt people. Victor had said that once. In the clubhouse, talking about breaking cycles. About how violence passed from generation to generation unless someone stood up and stopped it. Marcus had been so focused on his own survival that he'd never wondered why Trevor was the way he was. Never wondered what made a kid cruel. Never looked past the fists and the insults to see the broken person underneath. When Career Day finally ended, students spilled into the hallways for lunch. Marcus moved against the flow, searching for Trevor. He found him in the bathroom, alone, standing at the sink, staring at his reflection like he didn't recognize the face looking back. Trevor? Trevor spun. Fear flashed across his face before the mask dropped into place. What do you want? Came to gloat. Your biker daddies scared everyone into leaving you alone. No, Marcus stepped closer. I came to ask if you're okay. Trevor laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. Am I okay? That's Rich. The kid I've been beating on for months wants to know if I'm okay. Yeah, I do. Why? Marcus thought about it, really thought about it. Why did he care about someone who had made his life miserable? Why was he standing here, ribs still aching, bruises still healing, extending something like concern to his tormentor? Because someone showed up for me, Marcus said finally. Someone who didn't have to. Someone who saw I was hurting and decided to help instead of look away. And I realized something today watching you. Trevor's jaw tightened. What? You are hurting too. Silence. Trevor's mask cracked, just for a second, just enough for Marcus to see the truth underneath. You don't know anything about me. I know what scared looks like. I've been scared for 6 months. I know what hiding bruises feels like. I've done it every day. Marcus stepped closer still. And I know that look in your eyes when you watched your dad leave. That's the same look I had when Carl walked into a room. Trevor's hands were shaking now. His whole body was shaking. Shut up. Your dad hits you, doesn't he? I said shut up. Or your mom, or both. Someone in your house is hurting you and nobody knows because you hide it just like I hid it. And shut up, Trevor shoved Marcus hard. Marcus's back hit the wall and his ribs screamed, and for a second he thought he was about to get beaten up all over again. But Trevor didn't swing. He collapsed right there on the bathroom floor. This kid who had terrorized Marcus for months. This bully who had thrown his father's medal in the garbage. He just crumpled, head in his hands, and started to cry. Not fake tears, not manipulation, real ugly broken sobs that shook his whole body. Marcus stood there, pain radiating through his ribs, watching his enemy fall apart. He should leave, should walk out and let Trevor suffer alone. It would be justice, it would be fair. It would be exactly what Trevor deserved after everything he'd done. Instead, Marcus sat down beside him. I'm sorry, Trevor choked out between sobs. I'm sorry for everything, the things I said about your ding, the medal, all of it. I know. No, you don't. You don't know what it's like. I do, actually. Marcus pulled up his sleeve, showing the cigarette burns. I know exactly what it's like. Different monster, same cage. Trevor looked at the scars, at Marcus, at the boy he'd been hurting who was now sitting beside him, offering something like understanding. How did you get them to help you, the bikers? I asked. Marcus shrugged. I walked in and asked. Just like that. Just like that, most terrifying thing I've ever done. But I did it, and they showed up. Trevor was quiet for a long moment. His sobs had faded to shaky breaths. He'll kill me if I tell anyone. That's what Carl said, too. I'm serious. My dad knows people, has connections. He'll make it look like an accident. He said so, described exactly how he'd do it. Marcus nodded slowly. Same playbook, same threats, same cage. He stood up. His ribs protested. He ignored them. He reached down and offered Trevor his hand. Victor told me something when I first asked for help. He said asking for help takes more guts than most grown men ever show. He was right. Trevor stared at the offered hand. I'm not asking you to forget what you did to me. I'm not saying we're friends. But I am saying that if you want out, if you want someone to show up for you the way they showed up for me, I can make that happen. Trevor didn't take the hand, but he didn't refuse either. He just sat there looking at Marcus, tears drying on his cheeks, something like hope fighting through the fear. Why would you help me after everything? Marcus thought about Victor, about Blade, about 32 men who'd chosen to care about a stranger just because that stranger needed help. Because that's what family does, Marcus said. And maybe family isn't just the people who share your blood. Maybe it's the people who see you hurting and decide to do something about it. He left his hand extended. Trevor reached up and took it. Trevor's hand was cold and trembling in Marcus's grip. Marcus pulled him to his feet. They stood face to face in that bathroom, bully and victim, two broken kids looking at each other with new eyes. What happens now? Trevor's voice was barely a whisper. Now you come with me. Where to meet someone who can actually help. Trevor's face went white. I can't. If my dad finds out, he won't find out. Not until we're ready. Marcus headed for the door. You coming or not? For a long moment, Trevor didn't move. Fear and hope warred across his face. Then he followed. They found Victor in the parking lot, leaning against his motorcycle, talking quietly with Hector. The bikers had stayed as promised. 32 men scattered around the school grounds, a silent army waiting for Marcus to need them. Victor saw them coming. His eyebrows rose when he noticed Trevor. "Marcus, who's your friend?" "This is Trevor. He's the one who's been bullying me." Hector straightened eyes, going hard. "That right? It's also right that his dad beats him worse than Carl ever beat me." Marcus looked at Victor steadily. "I found him crying in the bathroom. He's got the same look I had when I walked into the clubhouse. Same fear, same hopelessness." Victor studied Trevor for a long moment. The boy couldn't meet his gaze. He stared at the ground, shoulders hunched, making himself small. "That true kid your father hurts you." Trevor nodded once, barely perceptible. "For how long?" "Always." Trevor's voice cracked. "Since I was little. My mom too. He controls everything, where we go, who we talk to, what we say." Victor and Hector exchanged a look. The same look they'd exchanged when Marcus first told his story. The look of men recognizing a pattern they'd seen too many times before. "Your dad's Richard Whitmore," Victor said slowly. "Big developer, lots of money, lots of connections." "Yes, sir." "That makes this complicated." Trevor flinched. "I knew it. You can't help. Nobody can help. He's too powerful. He'll destroy anyone who—" "I didn't say we can't help." Victor's voice cut through Trevor's panic. "I said it's complicated. Complicated isn't impossible." He crouched down to Trevor's level the same way he'd crouched for Marcus 3 days ago. "Here's what I need to know. Your mom, is she safe right now?" "She's at home. Dad's at work until 6. "Does he hurt her often?" "Every week. Sometimes more. She tries to hide it, but I see the bruises." Trevor's voice trembled. "Last month he broke her arm, told the doctors she fell down the stairs. They believed him. Everyone always believes him." Victor nodded slowly. "And you, how bad does it get?" Trevor pulled up his shirt. Marcus inhaled sharply. Trevor's torso was a map of violence. Purple bruises, yellow-green ones fading. Scars that looked like they'd been made by something sharp. The same constellation of pain Marcus knew too well. "Jesus Christ." Hector's voice was rough. "He uses a belt mostly." Trevor let his shirt drop. "Sometimes his fists. Once he held my head underwater until I almost drowned. Said he was teaching me a lesson about respect." Victor stood. His face had gone cold, the same cold Marcus had seen when Carl's name first came up. "Hector, find out everything you can about Richard Whitmore. Business dealings, personal life, skeletons in closets. Everything. On it." "Tiny," Victor called across the parking lot. The big man jogged over. "I need you to do something delicate." "Think you can manage delicate?" Tiny smiled grimly. "For a kid, I can manage anything." "Good. Trevor's mom is alone at home right now. I need someone to approach her carefully. Let her know help is available if she wants it. And if she doesn't want it, then we wait, but we let her know the door is open." Victor looked at Trevor. "What's your mom's name?" "Catherine. Catherine Whitmore." "Is she likely to panic if a stranger shows up?" Trevor thought about it. "She might, but if you tell her I sent you, she'll listen. She's scared, but she's not stupid. She knows we need to get out. She just doesn't know how." Victor nodded. "Tiny, take Blade with you. Be gentle. Be patient. Make it clear you're there to help, not to make things worse." "What about my dad?" Trevor asked, fear creeping back into his voice. "He's supposed to be home at 6. If she's not there when he gets back, then we make sure she is." Victor put a hand on Trevor's shoulder. "One step at a time, kid. First we talk to your mom, then we figure out the rest." "What do I do?" "Tia, you stay here with Marcus. Go to class. Act normal. Don't give your father any reason to be suspicious." "I don't think I can act normal." "You've been doing it for years." Victor's voice was gentle but firm. "A few more hours won't kill you, but tipping off your father before we're ready might." Trevor swallowed hard. Okay, I can do that." "Good." Victor looked at Marcus. "Keep an eye on him. If anything feels wrong, you call me immediately." "I will." The bikers split up. Tiny and Blade headed for their motorcycles. Hector was already on his phone walking toward the edge of the parking lot. Victor watched them go, then turned back to the boys. I know this is scary, both of you, but I need you to trust me. We've done this before. We know how to handle men like Richard Whitmore. He's not like Carl, Trevor said quietly. He's smarter, more careful. He's got lawyers and connections and money. People are afraid of him. So were people afraid of a dozen other men we've dealt with. Victor's smile was thin. Money and connections don't mean much when the truth comes out. And the truth always comes out. Always. He mounted his motorcycle. Go to class. Keep your heads down. I'll be in touch before the day's over. He kicked the engine to life and roared out of the parking lot. Marcus and Trevor watched him go, two boys bound together by shared understanding of monsters. He's really going to help, Trevor asked. Yeah, Marcus nodded. He really is. Why I've been horrible to you? Why would you do this for me? Marcus thought about the question, about all the reasons he should hate Trevor, all the pain, all the humiliation, all the rage he'd swallowed for months. Because someone did it for me, he said finally. Because I know what it's like to be trapped with no way out. And because Victor taught me something important. What? Hurt people hurt people. Marcus started walking toward the school. You hurt me because someone was hurting you. Breaking that cycle is more important than holding grudges. Trevor fell into step beside him. I don't deserve your help. Probably not. Marcus glanced at him. But you need it. That's what matters. They walked back into Jefferson Elementary together. Students stared, whispered. The bully and his victim, side by side, something clearly changed between them. Marcus didn't care what anyone thought. He'd spent months being invisible. Now he had power. Now he had people. And he was going to use both to help someone who needed it, even if that someone had once been his worst enemy. The rest of the school day crawled by. Marcus couldn't focus on anything. Every time a phone buzzed, he jumped. Every time someone walked past the classroom door, he tensed. Trevor was worse. The kid looked like he was going to shatter into a million pieces. At 2:47, Marcus's phone vibrated. Text from Victor. Your mom's house, after school, bring Trevor. Important. Marcus showed Trevor the message. The color drained from Trevor's face. What does that mean, important? It means we go find out. The final bell rang at 3:15. Marcus and Trevor walked out together, ignoring the stares, ignoring the whispers. Kyle and Mason watched them pass with confused expressions, their leader walking alongside their favorite target. Nothing made sense anymore. Sarah was waiting outside in her old Honda. She'd taken another day off work. When she saw Trevor with Marcus, her eyebrows rose, but she didn't ask questions. Just unlocked the doors and let them pile in. Where are we going? Marcus asked. The clubhouse. Victor called, said it was urgent. The drive took 15 minutes. Trevor sat in the back seat, silent hands clasped in his lap so tightly his knuckles had gone white. You're Trevor, Sarah said, glancing in the rearview mirror. Yes, ma'am. Marcus told me about you this morning, about what you did to him. Trevor flinched. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I'm sorry. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then, my son seems to think you're worth saving. That's good enough for me. But if you hurt him again, I won't, I swear. We'll see. They pulled into the clubhouse parking lot. Motorcycles everywhere, more than Marcus had ever seen before. Something big was happening. Victor met them at the door. Inside, both of you. There's someone who wants to see you. Marcus's heart hammered. He walked into the clubhouse, Trevor close behind. And there, sitting at the bar, surrounded by bikers, was a woman Marcus didn't recognize. Small, blonde, pretty, but in a faded way, like someone whose light had been dimmed by years of darkness. Trevor stopped dead. Mom, Catherine Whitmore turned. Her eyes were red from crying. A bruise on her cheek, mostly covered by makeup, but visible if you knew to look. When she saw her son, she broke. Trevor. Oh God, Trevor. She ran to him, wrapped her arms around him, held on like she would never let go. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I should have gotten us out years ago. I was scared. I was so scared. I know, Mom. I know. Trevor was crying too. But it's okay now. These people are going to help us. Catherine looked up at Victor, who stood nearby, arms crossed, watching. Is that true? Can you really help us? Already started. Victor pulled up a chair and sat. Mrs. Whitmore, I need to ask you some questions. Some of them are going to have to be hard. Can you do that for me? She wiped her eyes, straightened her spine, something like steel flickering beneath the fear. Yes, I can do that. Good. First question. How long has your husband been abusing you? 13 years, since before Trevor was born. Has he ever threatened to kill you? Many times. He's described how he'd do it, make it look like an accident. He knows people who can make problems disappear. Her voice cracked. That's what he calls us. Problems. Has he ever acted on those threats? Catherine hesitated. Then she pulled down the collar of her shirt, revealing a scar across her collarbone. 2 years ago, he came home drunk, angry about a deal that fell through. He had a knife. I tried to run. He caught me at the door. Marcus heard Trevor make a small wounded sound. He stopped because Trevor walked in, saw everything. After that, Richard said if I ever told anyone he'd kill Trevor first, make me watch. She was shaking now. That's why I never left. Not because I was weak, because I was terrified of what he'd do to my son. Victor nodded slowly. Do you have documentation, photos of injuries? Medical records? Some. I've been keeping a file hidden for years in case I ever got brave enough to use it. Where safety deposit box, a bank Richard doesn't know about. I've been skimming cash for years, a little at a time, hiding it away. Hector stepped forward. Mrs. Whitmore, that file could put your husband away for a long time. Would you be willing to share it with law enforcement? If you can guarantee our safety, yes, I'll share everything. Victor and Hector exchanged looks. Something passed between them. A decision being made. We can do better than guarantee your safety, Victor said. We can make sure Richard Whitmore never hurts anyone again. How? Your husband's business dealings aren't exactly clean. Hector flipped open a notebook. I've been making calls all afternoon. Construction contracts with suspicious billing. Shell companies moving money offshore. Connections to people who operate outside the law. One of those people owes us a favor. He was very talkative. Catherine's eyes widened. You're saying Richard is a criminal? I'm saying Richard Whitmore has built his empire on fraud, intimidation, and money laundering. The domestic abuse is just what he does at home. His public life is just as dirty. Hector smiled grimly. The FBI has been building a case for 2 years. They're just missing a few pieces. Your testimony combined with what I've gathered today could be those pieces. You want me to testify against my husband? Only if you want to. Victor's voice was gentle. But if you do, we can make sure you and Trevor are protected. New identities if necessary. New city, new life. Richard goes to federal prison for a very long time, and you never have to look over your shoulder again. Catherine was trembling. Trevor gripped her hand. Mom, we have to do this. We can't keep living like this. I know, sweetheart. I know. She looked at Victor. If I do this, you promise you'll protect my son. Mrs. Whitmore, I've got 32 men who showed up at an elementary school today for a kid they'd known for 3 days. Victor gestured around the room. Your son is under our protection now. Same as Marcus. Same as everyone we take in. Nobody touches our family. Catherine broke down again, but this time the tears were different. Relief instead of fear. Hope instead of despair. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll do it. I'll tell them everything. The next 3 hours were a blur of activity. Hector made calls to his FBI contact. Catherine retrieved her files from the safety deposit box, escorted by Tiny and Blade. Victor coordinated the logistics of keeping 2 witnesses safe until federal agents could take over. Marcus watched it all from a corner of the clubhouse, Trevor beside him. Is this really happening? Trevor asked, dazed. Yeah, it's really happening. Yesterday I was bullying you. Today I'm watching my whole life fall apart. Marcus thought about that, about how quickly everything could change, about how one moment of courage could set off a chain reaction that transformed everything. Fall apart isn't the right word, he said finally. It's more like being rebuilt. The old life is gone, but the new one could be better. Trevor shook his head. How are you so calm? How do you not hate me? I'm not calm. I'm terrified. Just like you. Marcus looked at him directly. And I did hate you. For months, I hated you more than I've ever hated anyone. But then I saw you crying in that bathroom and I realized something. What? That hate takes too much energy. Energy I could spend on better things. Marcus shrugged. Besides, Victor showed me what real strength looks like. It's not about hurting people. It's about helping them, even when they don't deserve it. Trevor was quiet for a long moment. Then your dad, the soldier. He must have been something special. He was. Mine never was. Trevor's voice was bitter. He was always like this, mean, controlling, angry. I used to think maybe if I was good enough, perfect enough, he'd love me, but nothing was ever good enough. That's not about you, that's about him. I know that now, but when you're a kid, you don't understand. You just think you're the problem. Marcus nodded. He understood that feeling too well. The way abuse twisted your thinking, made you believe you deserved the pain. Victor told me something when I first asked for help, Marcus said. He said I did a brave thing, that asking for help takes more guts than most grown men ever show. He was right. I didn't believe him at first. I felt weak, pathetic, like a failure for not being able to handle it myself. Marcus met Trevor's eyes. But then 32 bikers showed up at my school and I realized something. Being brave isn't about suffering alone. It's about having the courage to let people in. Trevor processed that, really processed it. Marcus could see him turning the idea over in his mind. I spent so long hurting you because I didn't know how to ask for help, Trevor admitted quietly. I thought if I made someone else feel smaller, I'd feel bigger. But it never worked. I just felt worse. Hurt people hurt people. Yeah, Trevor's voice cracked. I guess we're both proof of that. Around 6 to our age, Victor approached them. We've got a situation. Marcus tensed. What kind of situation? Richard Whitmore came home early, found his house empty. His wife's phone is going straight to voicemail. He's making calls, getting angry. Victor's jaw was tight. Hector intercepted one of those calls. Richard's talking about finding them, making them pay. Trevor went pale. He knows. He knows we're gone. He suspects. He doesn't know where you are. Victor crouched down to their level. Here's what's going to happen. The FBI is sending agents tonight. They'll take your mom's testimony and move you both to a safe house. By morning, Richard Whitmore will be in federal custody. What if he finds us first? He won't. Victor's voice was absolute. This clubhouse is a fortress. We've got 32 armed men who've been waiting for someone to give them a reason to fight. Richard Whitmore isn't stupid enough to walk in here. As if on cue, the sound of a car engine outside. Tires screeching, a door slamming. Every biker in the room reached for something. Guns appeared from concealed holsters. The casual atmosphere transformed into something coiled and dangerous. Victor stood slowly. Stay here, both of you. He walked toward the front door. Tiny and Blade flanked him. 3 men who looked like they were walking into war. The door crashed open before they reached it. Richard Whitmore stood in the entrance. His expensive suit was rumpled, his silver hair disheveled, his eyes wild with rage. Where's my wife? Victor stopped 3 feet away. You need to leave. I'm not going anywhere without my family. Richard's voice shook with fury. Catherine, Trevor, get out here right now. Catherine emerged from the back room, face pale but resolved. Trevor stood up, moving toward his mother. Richard, Catherine said quietly, it's over. What's over? What are you talking about? Richard's eyes swept the room, taking in the bikers, the guns, the complete absence of fear. These people are criminals. They've kidnapped you. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Victor's voice was calm. Ask for Agent Rodriguez with the FBI. He's expecting your call. Richard's face changed. The rage flickered, replaced by something else. Fear. What have you done? He asked Catherine. What have you told them? Everything. Catherine's voice was stronger now. She had Trevor's hand in hers. The abuse, the threats, your business dealings, all of it. You stupid! Richard lunged toward her. He made it 2 steps before Tiny intercepted him. The big man moved faster than someone his size should have been able to move. One moment Richard was charging, the next he was face down on the floor with Tiny's knee on his back. Bad idea, Tiny said calmly. Richard struggled. It was pointless. Tiny outweighed him by 100 pounds of solid muscle. This is assault. I'll have you all arrested. Do you know who I am? Richard Whitmore, real estate developer, money launderer, wife beater, child abuser. Victor crouched down beside him. Yeah, we know exactly who you are. I have rights. I have lawyers. You can't, we can't, what? Protect a woman and child from a man who threatened to kill them. Victor's voice went cold. We're not cops. We're not bound by the same rules, but lucky for you, we're also not murderers. If we were, this conversation would be very different. Sirens in the distance, growing closer. That'll be the FBI. Victor stood. They've been building a case against you for 2 years. Fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, but what they really want is your testimony against the people you work with. The people higher up the food chain. Richard's face went gray. If I testify against them, I'm dead. If you don't testify, you are going to federal prison for the rest of your life. Your choice. Victor shrugged. Either way, you're never touching your wife or son again. That I can guarantee. The FBI agents arrived in a flurry of badges and authority. They took Richard Whitmore into custody without ceremony, reading him his rights as they loaded him into an unmarked car. Catherine watched him go. Her hand never left Trevor's. Is it really over? She whispered. For you, yes. Victor stood beside her. For him, it's just beginning. Agent Rodriguez approached, professional, careful, the kind of man who'd spent years dealing with dangerous people. Mrs. Whitmore, we have a safe house ready. You and your son will be protected until the trial. What happens to Richard? That depends on whether he cooperates. If he gives us what we need on his associates, he might see daylight again someday. If not, Rodriguez shrugged. Federal prison isn't kind to men like your husband. Catherine nodded slowly. Good. She turned to Victor. Her eyes were wet, but her spine was steel. Thank you for everything. I don't know how to repay you. Don't need repayment. Victor looked at Trevor. Just take care of your boy. Help him heal. That's payment enough. Catherine hugged him. This small, battered woman wrapping her arms around a Hells Angels president in the middle of a biker clubhouse. Victor hugged her back, gentle, protective, the embrace of a man who'd spent his life building walls around those who needed them. Then she was gone, into a black SUV with tinted windows, Trevor beside her looking back at Marcus through the glass. Marcus raised a hand. Trevor raised his back. The SUV pulled away, and just like that, it was over. Marcus stood in the parking lot long after the last car disappeared. The adrenaline was fading, the exhaustion rushing in, his ribs ached, his head pounded. But somewhere beneath all that was something else. Peace. Victor appeared beside him. Hell of a day. Yeah. Marcus's voice was hoarse. Hell of a day. You did good, kid, standing up for Trevor like that. Most people would have let him suffer. Most people aren't you. Victor laughed. A real laugh, not the cold one he used with enemies. I'm not that special. Just a broken man who decided to start fixing things instead of breaking them. That's pretty special, actually. Victor was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer. When I first started this club, it was just me and 5 other guys who didn't fit anywhere else. Veterans, mostly. Men who'd seen too much, done too much, couldn't go back to normal life. We rode together because riding alone felt like dying. Marcus listened. Then one day this kid showed up at our clubhouse, 16 years old, covered in bruises, hadn't eaten in 3 days, asked if we could help him find his sister who'd been taken by her boyfriend. Did you help? We found her, got her out, put the boyfriend in the hospital. Victor's jaw tightened. After that, word spread. People started coming to us with problems nobody else would touch. Kids in danger, women being hurt, old people getting scammed. We became what the system wasn't, someone who actually showed up. Is that why you helped me? Victor looked at him, really looked at him the way he had that first day in the clubhouse. I helped you because when you walked through that door, I saw myself at 10 years old, scared, hurt, alone, convinced nobody gave a damn whether I lived or died. His voice roughened. I couldn't save that kid. He's gone. But I can save you. And every kid like you who's brave enough to ask. Marcus felt tears building. I don't know how to thank you. I do. Victor put a hand on his shoulder. Grow up, get strong, And when you see someone who needs help show up, that's how you thank me. That's how you honor your dim. That's how you break the cycle. Marcus nodded. He couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. Come on. Victor steered him toward the clubhouse. Your mom's inside. She's worried sick, and I think there's pizza coming. They walked together, the grizzled Hells Angels president and the 10-year-old boy who'd changed everything just by asking for help. Inside, Sarah rushed to Marcus, wrapped him in her arms, held on like she'd never let go. I'm okay, Mom. I know, baby, I know. She pulled back, cupping his face. I'm so proud of you. For what? For seeing someone in pain and choosing to help instead of looking away. That's not easy. Most adults can't do it, but you did. Marcus thought about Trevor, about Carl, about all the broken people and broken cycles and broken lives that had intersected over the past few days. Victor says hurt people, but I think it works the other way too. What do you mean, healed people heal people? Marcus looked around the clubhouse, at the bikers who'd become family, at the mother who had finally been freed, at the world that was somehow different than it had been a week ago. Maybe that's what this whole thing has been about. Breaking the chain, starting something new. Sarah smiled through her tears. When did you get so wise? I had good teachers. The pizza arrived. The bikers gathered around. Stories were told. Laughter filled the room. For the first time since his father died, Marcus felt like he belonged somewhere. Family, Victor had called them. The kind you choose when blood lets you down. Marcus understood that now. Understood it in his bones. He was home. 8 years passed like water through open hands. Marcus remembered every moment and none of them. The days blurred together, each one a little better than the last, each one carrying him further from the broken boy who'd walked into a Hells Angels clubhouse with a black eye and a desperate prayer. He was 18 now, tall, strong, his father's eyes looking back at him from the mirror every morning. The scars on his arms had faded to silver lines, barely visible unless you knew where to look. He knew where to look. The clubhouse had become his second home. After school weekend summers, he'd spent more hours there than anywhere else, learning to fix engines, learning to ride, learning what it meant to be part of something bigger than himself. Victor had aged, more gray in his hair, more lines around his eyes, but his presence was the same. That quiet strength that made everyone around him feel safer just by existing. You nervous? Marcus looked up from the engine he was rebuilding. Victor stood in the garage doorway, coffee in hand, watching him with that knowing expression. About what? Graduation. Tomorrow, 18 years of education coming down to one ceremony. Marcus shrugged. It's just a piece of paper. It's more than that, and you know it. Victor crossed the garage and sat on an overturned crate. Your dad never got to graduate college, enlisted right out of high school, always said he'd go back, get his degree, do something different. I know. So tomorrow when you walk across that stage, you're not just graduating for yourself. You're graduating for him too. Marcus set down his wrench. His hands were shaking slightly. He'd been trying not to think about tomorrow, trying not to feel the weight of it. I wrote a speech. Victor's eyebrows rose. They asked you to speak valedictorian. Marcus couldn't quite keep the pride out of his voice. Top of the class. Full scholarship to Berkeley. Criminal justice, right? Yeah, I want to help kids like me, like Trevor, kids who fall through the cracks. Victor smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. Your dad would be proud as hell. So would you. I already am, kid. Have been for 8 years. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that only came from years of shared history, years of healing, years of becoming family. Trevor's a-coming tomorrow, Marcus said. Him and his mom. I heard Catherine's doing well. Better than well, she's running a nonprofit now, helps domestic violence survivors start over. Got funding from about a dozen sources. Marcus paused, including some anonymous donations from a certain motorcycle club. Victor's face gave nothing away. No idea what you're talking about. Sure you don't. A motorcycle pulled into the lot outside, then another, then a dozen more. The rumble of engines filled the air, familiar as a heartbeat. The boys are here, Victor said, standing. They wanted to see you before the big day. Marcus followed him out of the garage, 32 bikers stood in the parking lot. The same 32 who'd shown up at career day 8 years ago. Some had more gray hair now. Some had new scars. But they were all there, every single one. Tiny stepped forward. The big man had tears in his eyes, which he denied to his dying day. Look at you. His voice was rough. All grown up, college boy. Don't start. Marcus felt his own eyes burning. You'll make me cry. Too late. Tiny pulled him into a crushing hug. I'm so damn proud of you, kid. One by one they came forward. Hector, Blade, Doc. Every man who'd become an uncle, a mentor, a father figure. Each one hugged him. Each one told him how proud they were. By the end, Marcus was openly weeping. He didn't care. These men had seen him at his worst. They could see him at his most vulnerable too. Okay, Victor raised his hand, cutting through the emotion. Save something for tomorrow. We've got work to do. What work? Victor grinned. Your graduation present. Out back. Marcus followed him behind the clubhouse. The other bikers trailed along, barely containing their excitement. And there it was, a motorcycle. Not just any motorcycle. A fully restored 1970 Harley-Davidson Sportster, black and chrome gleaming in the afternoon sun, the same bike Marcus had been helping restore for the past 3 years, piece by piece, hour by hour. We finished it last night, Victor said. Wanted it ready for today. Marcus couldn't speak. He walked toward the bike, running his hand over the gas tank. Every inch of this machine held memories. Late nights in the garage, skinned knuckles and grease-stained fingers, Victor teaching him patience, Tiny showing him how to balance a carburetor, Hector explaining the spiritual significance of the open road. It's beautiful. It's yours. Victor pressed the keys into his palm. You built it. You ride in it. Marcus looked at the keys, at the bike, at the 32 men who had spent 8 years showing him what family really meant. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be careful. Victor's voice roughened. And that you'll come back. College is important, but so is this. So are we. I'll come back. Marcus gripped the keys. Every break, every summer. This is home. You are my family. Nothing changes that. Damn right. Tiny's voice boomed across the lot. Now get on that thing and take it for a spin. We didn't spend 3 years rebuilding it just to look at it. Marcus swung his leg over the seat. The bike felt right beneath him. Natural, like it had been waiting for him all along. He kicked the engine to life. The roar filled the parking lot, drowning out everything else. And then he was moving. Out of the lot, onto the road. Wind in his face, engine rumbling beneath him. Freedom and power and everything he'd never had as a scared 10-year-old asking strangers to be his dad. He rode for an hour. Through town, past his old elementary school, past the house where Carl had hurt him, past all the places that had once been prisons and were now just geography. When he got back, the sun was setting. The bikers had lit a bonfire. Beers were being passed around. Someone had brought out a guitar. Marcus parked the bike and walked into the circle. His circle, his family. Good ride, Victor asked. The best. Good, because tomorrow everything changes again. Marcus looked at him. What do you mean? Victor was quiet for a long moment. The firelight flickered across his weathered face. I'm stepping down. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Around the fire, conversation stopped. Every eye turned to Victor. What? I'm 63 years old, Marcus. I've been running this club for 25 years, leading these men, carrying their burdens. Victor's voice was steady but heavy. It's time to pass the torch. To who? Victor smiled, that knowing smile that had guided Marcus through so many dark nights. I've been thinking about that for a while. The obvious choices, Tiny, Hector, Blade, they're all good men. Any of them could lead. But leadership isn't just about strength. It's about vision, about seeing what the club could be, not just what it is. Victor, what are you saying? I'm saying that in 4 years, when you graduate college, there's going to be a seat waiting for you. A real seat, not honorary brother, full member, and eventually, if you wanted leadership. The fire crackled. The bikers watched in silence. Marcus's mind reeled. I'm 18. I just graduated high school. which is why I said 4 years. Victor leaned forward. I'm not going anywhere tomorrow. Tiny's taking over day to day. I'll still be around advising, helping. But the future of this club, the real future, is you and kids like you. People who understand that power isn't about intimidation. It's about protection. I don't know if I'm ready for that. You're not yet. Victor's eyes were intense. But you will be. I've watched you grow from a broken kid into a man who stands up for people who can't stand up for themselves. That's not learn. That's bone deep. That's who you are. Marcus looked around the fire, at Tiny, who nodded slowly, at Hector, whose eyes were wet, at Blade, who raised his beer in silent salute. You all knew about this. We voted last month, Tiny said. Unanimous. When Victor told us his plan, every hand went up. Same as career day. Why me? Because you understand something most people never learn. Victor's voice was soft now. You understand that the greatest strength isn't in your fists. It's in your heart, in showing up, in choosing to help even when it costs you something. Marcus thought about his father, about the man who'd thrown himself on an IED to save 3 soldiers, about the sacrifice that had left a hole in Marcus's life that had never fully healed. My dad did that, he said quietly, showed up, even when it cost him everything. And you're his son, his legacy. Victor reached out and gripped Marcus's shoulder. But no pressure. This is an offer, not an obligation. You've got 4 years to decide. For now, just graduate. Just make us proud. I'll make you proud. Marcus's voice was thick. I promise. You already have, kid. You already have. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Marcus stood in front of his mirror, adjusting his graduation gown. The cap felt strange on his head. The tassel kept getting in his eyes. Hold still. Sarah appeared behind him, reaching up to fix the cap. You're worse than your father. He couldn't sit still for pictures either. I'm nervous. I know. She turned him to face her. Her eyes were already wet. But you're going to be amazing. You always are. Mom, don't cry yet. The ceremony hasn't even started. I'm your mother. I'll cry whenever I want. She cupped his face. Your father would be so proud of you. I hope you know that. I do. And I'm proud of you. More than words can say. You survived things that would have destroyed most people, and you came out the other side stronger and kinder and better. Her voice broke. That's not luck. That's you. That's who you are. Marcus hugged her, held on tight, let himself be held. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. Now let's go. We don't want to be late. The gymnasium was packed. Families filled the bleachers. Students in caps and gowns sat in rows of folding chairs. Teachers and administrators lined the stage. And against the back wall, impossible to miss, stood 32 Hell's Angels in full colors. Marcus spotted them as soon as he entered. They hadn't dressed up, hadn't tried to blend in. They stood exactly as they were, leather vests, tattoos, weathered faces, a wall of strength and solidarity. Several parents shot nervous glances their way. A few whispered to each other. But nobody said anything. Nobody dared. Marcus caught Victor's eye. The older man nodded once. A simple acknowledgement. A silent promise. We're here. We're always here. The ceremony began. Speeches from administrators, awards being handed out, names being called one by one as students crossed the stage to receive their diplomas. Marcus waited in his seat, running through his speech in his head. He'd practiced it 100 times, knew every word by heart, but the nerves wouldn't settle. Then he saw Trevor. His former bully sat 3 rows ahead, his mother Catherine beside him, both of them looking healthy and happy and completely transformed from the broken people Marcus had seen in that bathroom 8 years ago. Trevor must have felt his gaze. He turned around. Their eyes met. Trevor smiled, genuine, warm, the smile of a friend. Marcus smiled back. 8 years ago, Trevor had thrown Marcus's father's medal in the garbage, had called him orphan boy, had made his life miserable every single day. Now they texted every week, met up every month, had become brothers in every way that mattered. Hurt people, but healed people heal people too. And now the principal's voice cut through Marcus's thoughts. I'd like to invite our valedictorian to the stage, Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Turner. Applause thundered through the gymnasium. Marcus stood. His legs felt like they might give out. He walked to the stage, climbed the steps, approached the podium. Hundreds of faces stared up at him. His mother in the front row already crying, Trevor and Catherine nearby beaming with pride, and in the back 32 bikers who had changed his life. Marcus gripped the podium, took a breath, and began. People talk about family like it's just blood, like the people you're related to are automatically the people who matter most. His voice was steady, stronger than he expected. But I learned something different, Ed. I learned that family is the people who show up when your world falls apart, the people who see you at your worst and don't look away, the people who hold out their hand when you're drowning and don't let go until you can breathe again. He found Victor's eyes in the back of the room. 8 years ago, I was a scared 10-year-old with a black eye and nowhere to turn. My father was dead. My home was dangerous. I was being hurt by someone who was supposed to protect me. His voice caught. He pushed through. I did something crazy, something that shouldn't have worked. I walked into a place that terrified everyone in town and asked total strangers to be my dad for one day. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some people knew this story, some didn't. All of them were listening. I expected them to laugh, to throw me out, to confirm everything I'd been taught about trusting people. He paused, let the silence build. Instead, 32 men stood up. 32 men who had their own scars, their own stories, their own reasons to distrust the world. They looked at a broken kid and saw someone worth saving. In the back, Tiny wiped his eyes. Hector's shoulders were shaking. They showed up, not just that one day, but every day since. They taught me that real strength isn't about intimidation. It's about protection. They taught me that broken things can be fixed, that cycles can be broken, that the people who hurt us don't get to define us. Marcus looked at Trevor. I also learned that the people who hurt us are often hurting too. That cruelty usually comes from pain, not power. And that the bravest thing you can do isn't fight back. It's reach out. Trevor's eyes were wet. Catherine had her hand over her mouth. So to everyone here today, I want to say this. Find your people. Be someone's people. When you see somebody drowning, don't look away. Reach out, show up, stay. He gripped the podium harder. My father died protecting 3 soldiers he served with. He gave his life so they could go home to their families. I used to think that was the ultimate sacrifice, and it was. But I've learned there's another kind of bravery, the kind that shows up every day, the kind that says, I see you to someone who feels invisible, the kind that builds instead of breaks. His eyes found his mother. Mom, you worked yourself to exhaustion trying to keep us afloat. You never gave up, never stopped fighting. Even when you couldn't see what was happening right in front of you, you never stopped loving me. Thank you. Sarah was sobbing openly now. Several other mothers were crying too. Victor, Marcus looked at the back wall. You told me once that asking for help takes more guts than most grown men ever show. You were right. But showing up when someone asks takes even more. Thank you for showing up, all of you. The bikers stood straighter. Some wiped their eyes. None looked away. And finally, to everyone in this room who's struggling, who's scared, who feels alone, I need you to hear something. Marcus's voice rose. Strong, certain. It gets better, not easily, not quickly, but it gets better. There are people out there who will fight for you, who will stand between you and whatever's trying to break you. You just have to be brave enough to ask. He took a breath. My name is Marcus Turner. I'm the son of Sergeant Daniel Turner, who died a hero. I'm the son of Sarah Turner, who works harder than anyone I know. And I'm the brother of 32 Hell's Angels, who taught me what family really means. He pulled something from under his gown. His father's purple heart polished and gleaming, hanging from a chain around his neck. This medal was given to my father for uncommon valor. He earned it by protecting people he loved. Today I want to honor his memory by making a commitment. He held up the medal so everyone could see. I'm going to spend my life protecting people who can't protect themselves. That's my promise to my father, to my mother, to everyone who showed up for me, And to every kid out there who's still waiting for someone to notice they're drowning. He lowered the medal, let it rest against his chest. Thank you. Silence. Then applause. Thunderous, overwhelming applause. People rising to their feet. His mother, Trevor, Catherine, the entire gymnasium standing and cheering, and in the back 32 Hells Angels clapping harder than anyone. Marcus walked off the stage in a daze. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. Diplomas handed out, caps thrown in the air. Families rushing to congratulate their graduates. Victor found him first. Hell of a speech. Thanks. Marcus's voice was hoarse. I meant every word. I know you did. Victor reached into his vest. Got something for you. He pulled out a folded piece of leather, handed it to Marcus. Marcus unfolded it. A vest, brand new but made in the old style. On the back, a patch that made his heart stop. Honorary brother. Forever family. You gave me one of these 8 years ago, Marcus said, voice cracking. That was temporary. This one's permanent. Victor's eyes were wet. You're one of us, Marcus. Today, tomorrow, forever. Nothing changes that. Marcus pulled on the vest over his graduation gown. It fit perfectly. Around him, the other bikers gathered. One by one, they embraced him, welcomed him, acknowledged him as family. Then Sarah was there, pushing through the crowd, pulling him into a hug so tight he could barely breathe. I'm so proud of you. She was crying and laughing at the same time. So proud, so proud. Thanks, Mom. Trevor appeared next. His former bully, now his friend, now his brother in every way that mattered. Good speech. Thanks. You mentioned reaching out to people who hurt you. Trevor's voice was quiet. That was about me, wasn't it? Partly. I never properly thanked you for that day in the bathroom, for seeing past what I was doing to what I was going through. You don't have to thank me. Yeah, I do. Trevor pulled him into a hug. You saved my life, Marcus, you and Victor. I was drowning and you reached out. I'll never forget that. Then don't forget it. Just pay it forward. I will. Trevor pulled back. Already am, actually. I'm starting pre-med in the fall. Want to be a psychiatrist. Help kids who are going through what we went through. Marcus grinned. Look at us, couple of broken kids about to fix the world. Somebody has to. Trevor glanced at the bikers. Your army's waiting. They're not my army, they're my family. Same thing with you guys. The celebration continued for hours. Photos were taken, hugs exchanged, stories told and retold. By the time the gymnasium emptied, the sun was setting and Marcus's face hurt from smiling. Victor found him outside standing alone for a moment, looking up at the sky. Big day. Yeah. How do you feel? Marcus thought about it, really thought about it. I feel like this is the beginning, not the end. That's because it is. Victor stood beside him. Graduation isn't a conclusion. It's a launch point. Everything you've been through, everything you've survived, everything you've become, it all leads here, to this moment, to whatever comes next. What comes next scares me. Good. Fear means you're paying attention. Victor put a hand on his shoulder. But here's what I know. You've got your mother. You've got Trevor. You've got 32 brothers who would ride through hell for you. And you've got something else. What purpose? Victor's voice was firm. You know who you are. You know what you want to do. You know why it matters. Most people spend their whole lives searching for that. You figured it out at 10 years old. Marcus looked at him, at this man who had changed everything, who had answered a desperate child's plea and never stopped showing up. Victor, yeah, thank you for everything, for that first day, for every day since, for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. Victor's jaw tightened, his eyes glistened. You don't have to thank me, kid. You already did, by becoming who you are, by proving that all of this, the club, the program, everything we've built, it matters. It works. He pulled Marcus into a hug. You're my legacy, Marcus. You and every kid we've helped. That's what I leave behind. They stood there for a long moment, father and son in every way but blood. Then Victor's phone buzzed. He pulled back, checked the screen. His expression shifted. What is it? Remember what I told you about the club's future, about showing up for people who need us? Yeah. Victor turned the phone so Marcus could see. A text from Hector. Kid at the clubhouse, 9 years old, says her stepdad hits her, says she has nowhere else to go. Marcus's heart clenched. Sounds familiar. It should. Victor was already moving toward his motorcycle. You coming? Marcus didn't hesitate. He swung his leg over his own bike, the one he'd spent 3 years building, the one that represented everything he'd become. Let's go. They rode together through the darkening streets. Victor in front, Marcus behind, 2 generations of broken men who'd chosen to build instead of break. The clubhouse came into view. Lights on, motorcycles in the lot. The same place Marcus had walked into 8 years ago, with a black eye and a prayer. They parked and headed inside. She was sitting at the bar. Small, skinny, dirty blonde hair that hadn't been washed in days. Her eyes were too old for her face the same way Marcus's had been too old for his. And on her cheek, a bruise that told its own story. Victor crouched down in front of her. What's your name, sweetheart? Lily. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm Victor. This is Marcus. He gestured to Marcus, who had moved to stand beside him. You're safe here. Can you tell us what happened? Lily looked at them, at these 2 strangers in leather vests, at the room full of bikers watching with gentle eyes. My stepdad hits me, she said, voice cracking. My mom pretends she doesn't see. I didn't know where else to go. Someone at school said you help kids like me. Victor glanced at Marcus. Someone was right. Victor's voice was soft. We do help kids like you. That's what we do. Really? Why you? Really? Marcus crouched down too, putting himself at her level. I was like you once. Scared, hurt, nowhere to turn. I walked into this clubhouse 8 years ago and asked for help. These men saved my life. Lily's eyes went wide. You were like me. Exactly like you. Same bruises, same fear, same feeling like nobody in the world cared if I lived or died. Marcus reached out and took her small hand. But I was wrong, and so are you. People care. We care. Lily started to cry, quiet tears rolling down her cheeks. I don't want to go home. Please don't make me go home. You're not going home. Victor's voice was firm. Not tonight. Not until we know you're safe. I promise. How do I know you're not lying? Victor smiled, that rare, genuine smile. Because we're Hell's Angels, sweetheart, and Hell's Angels don't make promises we can't keep. He stood and looked at Marcus. Think you can handle this? Marcus looked at Lily, at her tear-stained face, at the fear and hope battling in her eyes, at the ghost of himself sitting on that bar stool waiting for someone to care. Yeah, his voice was steady. I can handle this. Victor nodded slowly, pride in his eyes. Then she's yours. First case. Show me what you've learned. Marcus turned back to Lily. He sat on the stool beside her, not too close, not too far, close enough to help, far enough to give her space. Okay, Lily, here's what's going to happen. We're going to get you some food because I bet you're hungry. Then we're going to make some calls and figure out how to keep you safe. And tomorrow we're going to start fixing this together. What if my stepdad comes looking for me, Tosi? Marcus glanced at the room full of bikers, at Tiny cracking his knuckles, at Blade leaning against the wall, eyes sharp, at 32 men who would stand between this child and anyone who tried to hurt her. Then he'll have to go through us first. Marcus squeezed her hand. And trust me, Lily, nobody gets through us. For the first time, Lily smiled. Small, tentative, but real. Cal, she whispered. Okay. Victor watched from across the room, watched Marcus comfort the frightened child, watched the scared kid he'd saved become the man who would save others. The cycle was breaking, had been breaking for 8 years, would keep breaking for as long as men like Marcus chose compassion over cruelty, protection over power. Hector appeared at Victor's elbow. He's ready. Yeah, Victor's voice was thick. He's been ready for a while. You did good, Ghost. With him. With all of them. We did good. All of us. Victor looked around the room, at his brothers, at his family, at everything they'd built together. This is what matters. Not the bikes, not the patches, this. He gestured at Marcus and Lily, at a broken child being offered hope, at a healed man paying forward the gift he had been given. This is what we leave behind. Later that night, after Lily had been fed and calls had been made and arrangements started, Marcus stood outside the clubhouse looking up at the stars. Victor joined him. Long day, long 8 years. Worth it. Marcus thought about everything. The pain, the healing, the becoming, the boy he'd been and the man he was and the person he would be. Every second. Good. Victor was quiet for a moment. Your father, the soldier. You think he's watching? Marcus touched the purple heart around his neck. I think he's proud, wherever he is. I think he sees what I've become, and he's proud. He should be. Victor put a hand on his shoulder. I know I am. They stood in silence, two men bound by something stronger than blood, bound by choice, by purpose, by the simple, powerful decision to show up when it mattered. So what now? Marcus asked. Now, Victor smiled. Now you go to college. Get your degree. Learn everything they can teach you. And when you're ready, you come back, because there's always another Lily, another Trevor, another scared kid who needs someone to answer when they call. And you'll be here, always, until I can't be anymore. And then you'll be here, and the people you saved will be here after you. That's how it works. That's how we break the cycle, one kid at a time, one act of courage at a time. Marcus nodded. He understood now. Understood that healing wasn't a destination, it was a direction, a choice you made every day, a hand you reached out over and over until the reaching became as natural as breathing. I'm ready, he said. I know you are. Victor squeezed his shoulder one last time. I've known for a while. Marcus Turner had walked into a Hells Angels clubhouse at 10 years old, beaten and broken and begging for help. He'd found something he never expected. Not just safety, not just protection, family, purpose, a reason to keep fighting. Now at 18, he understood his role in the story. Not just the saved, the savior. Not just the protected, the protector. The boy who had begged 32 bikers to be his dad for one day had become a man who would spend his whole life being there for others. That was the legacy. That was the promise. That was what it meant to break the cycle. And somewhere in a heaven Marcus hoped existed. Sergeant Daniel Turner looked down at his son and smiled, because the boy with the black eye had become exactly who he was meant to be.